friends? Welcome to Talking with Famous People. I'm host Alec, and I'm the host of Talking with Famous People. I love being the host of Talking with Famous People. Regardless of all that, this live stream says, am I inning or SIing right now? And I want to talk about a lot of things related to this because it's revelatory of a lot of things. So specifically, Cloud talked to me earlier in a live stream that lasted forever, and I really tried to actually make communicative progress with him, which means I explained to him, look, here's where our disconnect is. If you want to change what you're doing, or not any better, ask me questions. So he did ask me a question, and I pulled a complete dick move, and I was like, I don't need to establish that. You're the one affirming to change the status quo. But the funny thing is, hi, Archangelus. The funny thing is, of course, he didn't really. It's like he took my suggestion. He asked me a question. He asked me a good question, a straight enough question. But at that point, I was kind of annoyed with him, I guess. But since then, I've been thinking of the question, which is just like, well, how do you know you're an EP? Or how do you know you're an E? And I started thinking about this question, or like the fact that I had avoided this question, and specifically why I had avoided this question in the car. And I thought it's like I avoided this question because it's a complicated answer. He's not going to understand it, or he's going to fight back on it every step of the way. It's not worth my time to try to explain this big complicated thing to him. A paltry 16 hours? A mere drop in the bucket, madam. A mere drop in the bucket. Anyway, the thing is, you got me thinking about his arguments, and well, if it's really that complicated to explain, are you really so sure about it, Eric? There's got to be a straightforward explanation for this that anybody can understand as to why I'm definitely NE and not SI. So, the thing is, when Cloud did follow us and ask a question, he had actually a substantial impact on me intellectually. I saw you paid me. Thank you, Ed Adventure. I'm sorry I didn't think you did. So, anyway, so he's been asking some, he's been making some arguments that are kind of annoying because it's kind of difficult to figure out how to respond to him in a way. He just sort of says, you're using SI right now, Eric. How do you know you're not using SI right now? You just keep talking about things you already talked about before. You're repeating yourself. You're covering ground you already know. So it must be SI. I was like, yeah, but it doesn't work like that. This is complicated to explain. It's not actually complicated to explain, I realized. I realized because of what I actually am working on right now. So I actually thought that both the 10-hour live stream and the 4-hour one that was more recent, or 6 or whatever, I don't know, whatever long it was, I thought those recent ones were actually very good live streams. They were snappy, that I was, yeah, I was like, hey, I was, entertaining the whole time or whatever. And as I was kind of watching some segments of one of them, I decided, okay, 8 hours. I decided to, that I wanted to put together a video of clipped out all the best, not all of them, 5 to 10 minutes worth of the really poppy chunks, and so I started to work on that right now. And no, not usually. What I realized is the answer to Cloud's question, which is a great question. How do I know I'm using NE right now rather than SI? Is I just finished using SI. Using SI means I use an existing resource, namely the live stream I've already done, and work with that resource. NE means I'm tired of working with an existing resource now. I want to go back to making something new. Now, every time I live stream, I'm making something new. Cloud is right and wise to point out that, but I'm repeating things, sort of ideas anyway, that I've said before, and I already know the thing I'm talking about. Yeah, I'm not making it all up on as I go. It's not like I'm recreating cognitive functions every time I talk. I already know it, right? Well, the answer is basically it's like a guitar. When I am live streaming, I'm playing the guitar. I'm making up songs. It's just sort of an analogy here, okay? Pretend like when I am live streaming, it's the same thing as making up a song. I'm freestyling when I'm making it up. And so what Cloud's saying is, well, that can't be extroverted intuition because you already know the chords and the notes. But just because I know all the chords and the notes on the guitar doesn't mean the thing I'm making with them now is identical to anything I've made before. It may link back to things I made before. It may use some sort of experiential reference point, but it's not the same thing as playing something I've done before. So it's like when I'm playing music, sometimes I'm freestyling and making up a new song. Sometimes I'm playing one of my songs that I'm trying to play that I've played lots of times before and play lots of times again. By and large, these days, I try to spend more of my time playing songs rather than just making stuff up on the fly. But there was a long time where I spent way too much time freestyling. And you can only accomplish certain kinds of things and at so high of a level when you're just freestyling. So I think it's also important to remember that we can't look at an extroverted intuition thing as a correlate with the behavior without really running some risk of making a mistake. If you look at my behavior and you were to say, well, how creative is he? It depends where you set the frame, right? Like you could say, well, is he freestyling all of his own songs or is he playing songs he already has made up before? And if he's freestyling songs, then he's NE. If he's playing songs he's made up before, he's SI. Well, the fact is, that it's true when I'm playing songs I've played before, that's SI, pretty much. But it's also true that it's missing the point. When I'm playing a song I played before, I'm paying attention to what I already know, the words and the lyrics and the chords of the song. In that sense, it's SI. I'm trying to remember what the chords and lyrics are, right? But I'm also considering this particular execution of it and how I want to do it. And in that regard, my fundamental NE frame is still predominant in some sense. For example, I'm very aware of how I did things the last time. Like, let's say the song goes verse, chorus, verse, chorus. I'm very aware of how I transitioned from the verse to the chorus last time. And I have a natural inclination, bad habit really, of trying to do it a different way the next time. So for me, extroverted intuition is going to always suggest that kind of thing to me. Suggest, well, why don't we try it a different way now? Why don't we try it a different way now? And for me, it's been a bit of a battle and continues to be a battle to prioritize NI and SI. I would rather play it the same way as I played it before and play it perfectly. I don't like to indulge in NE anymore. It's a reflex that I have to fight. And this is what I'm getting at when you're talking about correlates, right? So, and why we have to be careful with how we argue and and when and why we want to argue and stuff. Because I'm a more developed ENTP, it's possible to point out the fact that I'm prioritizing things other than NE in my media a great deal. That I may not always attain NI, but it's pretty clear that it's pretty clear that this conversation in the chat is distracting me. What was he talking about here? Okay, so anyway, I am pretty clearly a seeker of NI. I like things to be resonant and true. I don't want things to be too complicated for its own sake, weird for its own sake, or whatever. But if you actually look at my shit, my music, for example, you'll see that I'm always fighting against that in my own music, even. Now, in that regard, to the extent that I'm successful as an artist, presumably, if you use correlates like that, then I would also be successful in providing some other person a set of arguments that I'm no longer an EHP. I'm not an EHP because, and that's one of the reasons why we ought to use a different approach in analyzing the thing. So instead of saying, well, EHPs freestyle more than they play their own songs, you have to acknowledge that NE creates a burden for SI as it moves along. And in some sense, NI is what tells SI which NE things to retain. It's very important to me, as an expression of my extroverted intuition, to have a repertoire of songs that I know how to play really well and that I can make pop, right? So I have to use SI and NI to avoid being too much extrovertedly intuitive and to realize myself as an artist. If we're not paying attention to the fact that the cognitive function links to how I am by default approaching things rather than what display I'm showing, that's then we have to get that right, because if we don't do that, then it's going to be obviously the case that as an EHP develops as a person and an artist, that misunderstanding of cognitive functions will cascade down to make it such that it no longer makes sense to call that person an EHP, because you've established that he's an EHP on behavioral correlates that have changed. So now, after all that talking, I want to get you the very short answer again of why I'm now currently NEing, whereas earlier, before I started the stream, I was SIing. The reason I was SIing then is because I had already made the live stream, and what I was doing was cutting up and putting together pieces of an existing resource. That's SI. No, it was still within the frame of NE, because the reason I was using this existing resource was to make something new out of it again. I wanted to take this long video, make a new shorter video out of it, right? But still, you could argue that my primary attentional manner there is SI, insofar as in the process of making that video, for example, I'm trying to keep track of in my head, okay, which clips have I gotten here? I got the joke about Mia, I got the joke about Mia, and I've got this one divided into two. I'm trying to sort of keep track of my assets in the app, like, which is a very SI process. Keep track of your resources, know where everything is, and how you're going to use it, presumably, or when you're going to use it, at least. For me, it's like I'm trying to figure out, okay, I have like general ideas to start out with, like, okay, this clip here is perfect for the very beginning of the video, the pre-song part, and then this one is perfect right after the song. Now I'm not sure if I put this area of topic next or this one, and so I start, and then it's very much a rhythm thing. If you do it right, then it moves at exactly the right pace, and there's no pauses too long, and everything's meandered again. You sound like it, Archangelus. You sound like it. You kind of sound like an I with your N and your TJ, maybe. If you do get your N stuck in your TJ, uh, go to the hospital. So anyway, as I was saying, the quickest way to distinguish whether I'm doing NE or SI is: am I making something new, or am I making something new out of something old? Because SI is always going to be subsumed by my NE. I'm always going to be making something new, but if I'm correctly prioritizing the knowledge functions, then I'm keep working on it until it's perfect. That's NI kind of a thing. And also, I make sure to put in the right amount of time to reviewing the existing resources to make sure I pick the right bits. If I don't go through and watch some existing resources and get a clear sense of what the range of stuff available is and which bits really stand out, you can at least certainly compare their quality against within the set itself without looking outside the set. You're going to see that regardless of whether the whole set is good or bad compared to externals, within the set, you can clearly distinguish these elements are extra good and these ones are more meh. It's not going to be that many hours tonight. This is all. I'm thinking like a couple hours. I would like to go to bed before midnight. Hi, Zandy. Hi, Zandy, Bobandy, Pandy, Bobandy, Bobandy, Shandy. So anyway, a couple takeaways from this whole thing that I want to recap is: one is that I shouldn't have done what I did earlier to Cloud. I was annoyed, but I shouldn't have done it. Relaxing Rainwalker. Oh my God. I have never paid so much attention to someone claiming I'm ignoring them before. If I were ever guilty of ignoring you, Eileen, then how come I can recount like 16 times when I was paying enough attention to note that you'd accuse me of ignoring you? Okay. Anyway. Well, because I'm in the middle of a fucking story, dude. I'm trying to get. I have enough trouble keeping train of thought without, without having to pause every second and go hi, 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 or whatever. I'll get around to it. Chills. Chills to the pills, to the smells, to the wills. I don't even remember what I was talking about now. Okay. Hi, Countess. I will ignore you when you talk rubbish. Thank you, Relaxing Rainwalker. Your praise is both relaxing and sumptuous rain for my thirsty roots. After you and I talked today about ESP and Cloud, I went to learn more about the ESFPs. I don't think it does that, Winston's mom. I think it might have been always an ESFP. The thing is, here's the deal with the ESFP, is what I did today to Cloud, which was not cool. It was I walked him all the way up with, and very patiently-ish, but also it took a lot of courage for him to hang there and kind of go with me the whole way. I walked him all the way up to, okay, now, stop making stupid ass statements and ask me some questions and learn some things. He finally asked me a question at the end of all that. And I didn't want to explain it because I thought it was a complicated explanation at the time. Or I didn't have the clear and simple explanation in my head. So I was already annoyed anyway because of how Cloud is. But so I said, you need to establish me. I don't need to establish anything about that because you're affirming that. I pulled a little debate thing on him, right? So I wish I hadn't done that. And as I was thinking, like, Eric, I should have done that. Because I was really pulling the rug out because you walked him all the way there. Of course, I keep thinking when I think things like that, yeah, but I mean, come on, Eric, this guy is just like, if you judge him against the message you're judging yourself against, you know what I mean. The thing is, here's the deal. It shows both that I was right in my suggestion to him and right in my critiquing of myself for doing that, because the question he asked ultimately reveals to me the clear answer. If we've got to come up with a simple, very concrete way to determine whether something is SI or NE, we simply go, are you doing something with something old Or are you doing something with nothing old, in which case you're just generating it out of nothing? Well, the latter in this instance. But before I started this live stream, it was the former because I was working with something old. So again, it's a quick and dirty answer, but it doesn't mean that I was actually using SI when I was working with something old. What it means is, I mean, the thing that was really an example of the process of SI when I was working with that old thing was keeping track in my head of the different clips and which ones I had in the app and which ones I had excluded and stuff like that. If I had, by Canvas, if I had been smart, I would have started with a piece of paper and made notations on that to keep track of it more easily. But, my TE is not quite that good, I guess. But here's the deal. With this video that I'm working on, I'm trying to make it very clean. And I'm trying to get the flow of it just. I want it to really pop on an NI level, I guess. I think there's a lot of good NI material there. And if I can compile it in a really digestible audience for an audience fashion, that hopefully it'll be successful as, in other words, I want my media to not be a bumpy ride for the viewer at all. I don't want anything in the media to be jarring them out of the getting lost in the giving up the ghost, so to speak. Okay. So it's interesting material to work with. There's some straight up like ha cha 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 jokes. One of my favorite jokes from that whole long live stream that the part I've listened to so far anyway, is the one where Joel Nathan Henry references Haiti. I don't know if you remember it. Let's see it on the video. And when I saw it, I was like, damn, dude. Not because it's such a great joke, but because it's like I sharpened myself into such an effective snappy retort user. Not in a negative sense of like schooling them or anything, but just taking advantage of hidden fruit that works. So I've been reflecting on how my processes have evolved, what YouTube continues to do to me, how it continues to shape me, and how much I like that, and how much it seems fitting that to see growth now, or to recognize, to be able to sort of look back down the path and see that I've come some distance over the course of the last whatever amount of time. It's not a common experience for me because I don't really know how to look back very effectively. I'm ignoring. It's a tricky business. I think Host Eric can tell us how to spot an XSFP versus an XSTP apart. Well, you just got to look at how they justify things, or an ENTP will justify things in ways that suggest they have a lot of awareness of how of qualifying words and stuff. ESTPs also have a lot of awareness of qualifying words, but a little less propensity for using them. But regardless, it's like a TI user will say something like, I think we can conclude the first part for sure, but the second part seems a little more wishy-washy. It's just drawing distinctions. You can tell TI users because they draw more distinctions and they qualify more. So they'll say, I went to the store last Thursday afternoon, evening, That's a TI move. You probably will never hear Cloud do that. Now, of course, we see him typing in, typeset words, not rather than speaking out loud. My name is host Eric Archangelis. Am I the presenter? I like gardening. I grow vegetables to be self-sufficient. I like gardening too. I don't grow any vegetables though. I don't actually do gardening. I guess it's incorrect to say I like it. That implies that I'm doing it. I think of it as something I would enjoy were I to do it again. Host Eric. It's because you can eat my body like a cracker. It's kind of the reverse of the host in church. It's okay, Archangelus. That's totally fine. I like Hose Eric too. Haas Eric's great, or any anagram of those. Is that what it's called? Like ESO Eric would be fine. Or Shoe Eric. I could be Shoe Eric. That'd be good. I hate when someone says it's a quarter of it's a quarter of 4. Did I say that? It's a quarter of it's a quarter to 4. You don't like when people say it's a quarter to 4? Or it's a quarter of 4? You really got a lot of possible warrants in there, Rebecca. You could be saying here that you hate it when someone begins and says it's a quarter, but then adds of and then repeats it's a quarter of 4. Or you could actually be doing that and you're just saying you hate it when someone says it's a quarter of 4. Now you could be saying I hate it when someone says it's a quarter of 4 because you know that it's not a quarter of 4. That would be 25% of 4. It's a quarter to 4. Or more properly, even a quarter until 4. Right. Yeah, I get it when you're going to put time. I'm not sure what it is you don't like about it. Is it the preposition of? You don't like the fact that it says a quarter of 4 when it should say a quarter till or 2 or until 4? Or is it because you just want them to say 3:45? Because you prefer 3:45? I mean, I prefer 3:45 too. A quarter past, quarter till. Lot of chance for confusion there. Because quarter suggests 25, but it's actually 15. I mean, I hadn't really thought about it before. It is quite sort of linguistically bad TE or something. Because of my crappy internet, the live stream buffers for a half a sec every 5 or 6 seconds or so. But after a few minutes, I get behind. I gotta restart my interwine and roll into the browser and push refresh. You can do that, you can go to the browser and push refresh. WM, why don't you let Eric type you? WM already knows what type she is. Not that I'd be fine with that if you wanted to, but you certainly have earned it. What is Countess's MBTI? I believe she's an ENTJ. She's a little bit sassy. If you're asking because you want to know why she's so sassy, the answer is because sassy is as sassy does. I'm an ENTP, and Desert INTJ is actually an ESTP. It's a trick name. No, he's an INTJ. Rebecca is ESFP. Matthew Alster is an ENFP. Ethan McDonald is a big piece of poo. Eileen, who the fuck knows what she is? I don't know. Bacon is some kind of moist type. I think a seeper of some sort. One of your NFPs, I believe. Blech. Is it true that ISFJs are known as the feminine type? If so, why? I don't think they're known as that, but I would say ISFJ girls could easily enough be called the feminine type because they tend to embrace fairly soft and conventional forms of femininity. Their ultimate goal, ISFJ's ultimate goal really involves ice cream, the couch, and a TV. But maybe some post-ice cream sex. I don't know what it means. Yeah, say 3, 4, 5. Well, you couldn't be 3, 4, 5. Are you talking about tri-type? The way the tri-type works, Rebecca, you have to have 2, 3, or 4. Get one of those 3. And you have to have 5, 6, or 7. You get one of those 3. And then you have to have 8, 9, or 1. You get one of those 3. So you can't ever have like 4, 5, 6 because you can only have 4, fine, 5, fine, but you can't have 6 or 7 if you have 5. You can only have one of those 3, 5, 6, or 7. See what I'm saying? You can only have one of 2, 3, 4. Pick one of those. You only have one of 8, 9, 1. Pick one of those. You only have one of 5, 6, 7. Pick one of those. So if you're a little confused about the tri-types, you got to remember that it's just saying I'm this kind of body, this kind of heart, this kind of mind. And your body shit is 8, 9, 1. What kind of body am I? Am I angry guy? Am I a peacemaker? Or am I perfectionist? With your heart part, you got to be a 2, 3, or 4. With my heart, helpful, proud, and high achieving, or defiant and individualistic. You have to pick one of those. And then lastly, the mind. How do you deal with fear? Do you use 5, try to understand it all the way? 6, just make sure your nest is super prepped. You're defended for anything, ready for defending against anything. Or 7, nothing bad is ever going to happen. Everything is just going to be fine. In sort of irrational optimism, you might say. So, for example, with my Enneagram type, I am Enneagram type 7. I'm nothing bad is ever going to happen. Everything is always going to be fine. As my first number. My second number is 8, which means if you want to, hey, I'm going to piano you. And 8 will say in response, oh, yeah, I'll piano you. Which is what I do. Whereas if I were a 9, I'd say, oh, don't piano me. We'll do something else, you know. And if I were 1, I'd be like, you think you're going to piano me? What are your reasons? Okay, well, I'm walking away from this shit. I'm not going to get involved. Like that. How you deal with conflict? Do you like to go piano? Would you like a big fist in the nose? Would you like to know how? Does Eric agree what? That Wim is that Winston Bond plays in the WNBA? Yes. You're a point guard, right? I think she is. I think of her as an INTJ. I haven't thought of her. Nothing has made me go, I don't think you're an INTJ, which I'm pretty sure would happen if she weren't. You don't have much piao in you, huh? A little piao that you don't even know that the letter after the P is obviously a Y, not a W. It's not P wow. It's piao. Well, I think I'm going to introduce everybody now to a new word as well that Cameron introduced me to that I haven't actually started using yet. But the word is shout, and it refers to the sound the video game Gauntlet made when you put a quarter in it. Cameron was telling me about it. He said, shout. I'm like, shout? Oh, that's interesting. Rachel LaPalooza. She is an INFJ. So I like the idea of shout being, for example, an initiating sound. So I want to see what Brian's saying. It sounds interesting. ENTP, dating an INFJ seems like a really good match. Yeah, it is. It's fuck yeah good is what it is. It's like, oh, this is what a relationship supposed to be like. Spacey and Isaiah both type Q INTJ. Spacey and Isaiah type Q INTJ. So Eric, you can't have nothing to say. Cause Spacey and Isaiah both type me INTJ. Is that really what you're saying? I think so. Yeah, INTP and INFJ are the golden pair. You're lucky. You're a lucky INTP. You know how hot those beta quadrant girls are. You're very interesting to me all of a sudden because you're going to be dating an INFJ. You guessed you're a 1 or a 5 or a 9. Wow, that's a huge range of self-esteem, and you really shouldn't grade your looks by numbers like that. I was like, you have no idea. Do you think you're like some kind of super hot 10? No, I'm a 1 or a 5 or a 9. Everything will just be fine if all 18 now will please sit. Like, you've been dating for about a year. We were pretty balanced in terms of alone time. She always wants to spend more time with me, but both our love languages are equally or quality time. Okay. Well, here's the thing. I think most people have more than one love language and that they prioritize, and probably just one that they really don't care about at all, or maybe two. But for example, Rachel and I both prioritize quality time too, but also words of affirmation and somewhat acts of service. The one that neither of us prioritize much at all is gift giving. Does Eric agree with what? Oh, Winston's mommy and INTJ? And nothing's really struck me as disagreeing with it. Eric, do you think INFJ is your best friend chat? Fuck yeah. Totally. Now, look, I'm not convinced that sort of any INFJ could. I'm not convinced they're plug and play. I don't think I can necessarily replace Rachel with another INFJ and it would work out just fine too. But I think if I had to replace Rachel, if she were to leave me or die or something, then I would definitely seek out another INFJ. I wouldn't even bother looking at any other types. She sold me on the make and model. You know, I traded in a 71 for an 85 as well. So, yeah, it's nice to move up to a newer model year and yeah. The previous owners had obviously been like old ladies or something because clean as a whistle. But yeah, well, that is true, Brian. I used to assume that Socionics was right about that. In fact, I got into a relationship with an ISFJ and then optimistically and enthusiastically tried to affirm that match. But it didn't work out. I mean, I stopped the whole like affirming the ISJ and ENP are a great couple pretty early in that relationship. It's like I started off in the relationship, I was like, yes, ISFJ and ENP. And so, I mean, that's where that narrative's kind of like got thinner and thinner and removed more and more from my overall narrative because I was just trying to argue that we should stay together or, you know, no, we do love each other. And this is not a total fucking travesty and disaster. Even though, you know, it took her hating anybody else to have NI and me being shockingly good at ignoring it to stay in that relationship for 2.5 years. Yeah, so Socionics thinks that ISFJ and ENFP are duals and that therefore they're best together. I had, even before I got with Rachel, a reality within my system that actually explains this. But I didn't really articulate it until I had a reason to, namely that my ISFJ didn't work and the INFJ did. When you look at the aspects of the cardinal functions in each type, INFJ and ENFP are both fully metaphysical types. They can both go metaphysical, metaphysical, metaphysical. And their dominant function and fifth functions are compatible. In other words, extroverted intuition needs to operate in an environment where it assumes introverted intuition is the metric being used, but it doesn't apply it itself. So it's like extroverted intuition, in order for it to function at all, it has to be sort of instinctually, reflexively aware that NI works like a metric on that field, um, but it just applies it when it wants to. It ignores it when it wants to. I see it in my dad, like the way he responds to TI stuff. Boy, we had a conversation today where, so he ended up talking to his lawyer, and if the conversation had gone the way I had wanted it to go, it would have gone like this. Well, I talked to the lawyer, Eric. Oh, and was I right? Yep, you were right. There's no possible way she can sue me. Of course, that's not how it went down at all, because the way my dad began the conversation was, Mike advises, just don't pile on, just try to just stop whatever it is you're doing. So I said, oh, well, what am I supposed to stop? Well, my dad had no idea, right? It's like he went to the lawyer with all the information he already needed, which was, here's why it's impossible for her to sue you. I hear you. It makes sense what you're saying. He can do the logical argumentation. He knows it's specious, but I also know that TE is the only thing that really matters. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to go to the expert, Mike, to have him tell me the exact same thing you told me, Eric, except less lucidly and correctly. And that's what he did. It's like, I don't know why he does shit like that. So, but I do know why. It's because he's both ignoring TI whenever he feels like it, whenever it's convenient, and using it whenever it's convenient. But the only exception to that sort of arbitrary self-indulgence is he knows and goes along with the fact that if he loses on TI grounds, he loses overall, and he can no longer defend it just on TE grounds. Without me ever discussing any of this explicitly with him, he knows that he has to at least avoid TI negation. So as soon as I start asking TI questions, I don't want to argue about this, Eric. I do not want to argue about this. So when he told me, Mike advises me to just not stop, Eric, just stop. Unfortunately, of course, question is, stop what, Dad? I whatever it is, I don't even know. So when I said, well, okay, well, what was Mike's reasoning? So what's his reasoning for why I should stop, or what I should stop, or well, there is nothing there. Well, as a general advisory rule, just don't make trouble. It's a very TE kind of approach. Like, the arguments don't really matter because there's always a TE squirm around. Fun chaser is the person who's running behind fun as fast as they can. Okay, so Brian, here's the thing. I don't think you quite got FI and FE right there. It's like the challenge for both HP and INFJ, though, is to come to accept the fact that the INFJ doesn't expect you to do much active FE. You just have to not do actively bad FE and be open to receiving subtle cues, which you probably already do. And one of the big problems is HP and INFJ can play Gift of the Magi. Do you know Gift of the Magi? Who am I talking to again? What's this guy's name? Brian. Do you know Gift of the Magi, Brian? It's a short story in which there's this couple, right? And the a dude's got a cool pocket watch. And the girl do you know the story, Brian? And the girl has this beautiful long hair. And the girl wants to buy the guy for Christmas a chain for his pocket watch, a beautiful chain. And the guy wants to buy the girl for Christmas combs for her hair, her long, beautiful hair. But they're broke. So the girl sneaks off one night and gets her hair cut off and sells it. It was back in the day, you can sell your hair to make wigs, and uses that money to buy her man that watch chain. Thank God, I'm gonna make him happy. And then the guy, however, also decides to sneak off. And he goes, I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna make my wife happy. I'm gonna sell my watch. I'm gonna use the money I make from my watch sale to buy her these beautiful combs for her long, beautiful hair. And of course, they go back home, and the dude opens the box, and he's got a beautiful chain, fob, they call it, for his watch. But of course, he has no more watch. The chick has these lovely combs for her hair, her long hair. Of course, she has no more hair. So, in order to make each other happy, they both successfully made each other unhappy because the dude liked her better with long hair, and she liked him better with a pocket watch. Now, when she asks him what time it is, he just looks at his fob and feels like an idiot. I'm proud of you too, Matthew. I'm proud of you too. Eric, please tell Ethan about my fucking Countess is an 8. Whoever thinks Countess is not an 8, have fun. Have fun with the pitchfork. Countess is a fucking 8. Let me tell you. She is an 8. She is a sassy pants McGee. You're definitely not an ESTJ. Hey, who else thinks you're an ESTJ, Countess? I've never heard you say goddamn anything SI at all. So anyway, though, you get what I'm saying, Brian? This was the beginning of my relationship with Rachel. How long have you been with yours? A year, you said? You've been with yours more longer than I've been with mine. I've been with mine coming about 7 months. I've said you're not SI, Countess. I've never heard anything SI out of you. If you're SI, you wouldn't insist on always calling people stupid fools. You're fools. Kenneth, who is these people that are meowing you? Well, what was his justification? What was his argumentation to defend it? Like, I mean, if he typed you ESTJ properly, he should have provided you he should have provided substantiation for it, and also where the wiggle room substantiation was. That I don't want to watch it. I have better things to do. He was confused with her. She was contradicting. I can't remember what he said. Look, I have never seen an ESTJ who understands cognitive functions or do anything other than demonstrate that they're ESTJ. Now, I have heard ESTJs who know nothing about cognitive functions say they're something else, but if an ESTJ actually does understand cognitive functions, unlike some other types, they tend to not try to game it. There's one. I think of one of them. There's one I know. Jordan Spike. He's the only one I can think of. Like I could just see before I even attempted what a complete futile headbang against the wall act of in pointlessness it would be to try to get my dad to understand cognitive functions. The problem is if you don't understand NI, then it's like right. They don't predict; they plan for contingencies. Well, you know me, I like plan for the worst. Well, they do predict, but they don't distinguish between predictions that are possible versus those that are not. Well, did he do a memory details test? When okay, but there's not a test for NI-polar. Did he test your SI? Okay, well then there's no reason. You can't conclude anybody's an ESTJ without testing their SI. It's the tool function of the ESTJ. Okay, well, that's not typing thing. He's just yeah. Unexpected, not surprisingly. Well, whatever. He uses a different approach, exactly. But of course, the reason that he was better than other typologists, was because he actually used the things about mind that made it different and better. If he's forsaken those, then he's not any better than anybody else. Or he might still be better than them, but he's not definitively better than them. And that's fine. He doesn't need to be. But the thing is, we have a clear reason as to why my approach is better. Because a skills test is actually determinate in some fashion. And we can actually gather empirical data if we wanted to and get it all worked out. Nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's just that if you're asking me, Countess, whether you should take that typing seriously as an ESTJ, the answer is maybe as a tentative typing pending him doing the test he needs to do, or Well, I know, but see, this is the thing, Countess. I've got excellent intuition too, and unfortunately, intuition can't be used to type people successfully because it's going to trigger false positives on multiple occasions. You have to have the right relationship with NI to be able to sever from those positive links at the appropriate time when you realize the stronger one is determinate and that it resolves some things that appeared resolved enough, but really created contradictions. Yeah, obviously, yeah. But look, it's not just being an HP that is important to being, because look, it's not being an EP doesn't inherently make you a better typist at all, typologist or whatever. But it's more like this. For whatever reason in the universe, I don't know why, I actually generated a better model qualitatively than existed before. My model actually makes sense. It fits together and it has concrete skills tests that can be definitively linked to certain things, at least within a spectral range somewhere. So we can definitively eliminate TI dominant if results are like meow. And we can definitively say he must be TI polar if results are like meow. If you don't use something like that, we can do it with SI too. SI is quite definitive. If Countess is an ENTJ, like I think she is, but I don't know. I would know within 1 to 2 minutes of typing her, because I start with the SI test. It's the most significant way you can move away from a wash of deliberative intuition and into NI. real NI, not, it's like I got demonstrative TE too. I got demonstrative TE, and sometimes it's going to be, hey, Eileen, why do you always do this to me? I'm explaining why his alternate approach is inferior to mine. I am not critiquing him for having one. I'm not saying he shouldn't have an alternate approach. I am not saying his alternate approach is bad because it deviates from mine. I'm saying it's wrong to the extent that it deviates from mine because it's less effective than mine, because to the extent that it lacks those skills tests, it throws away the only thing that we can really cling to as typologists, that we ought to be able to put our faith in the idea behind. If you try to de-link it from objectivity entirely, then you just become another mush. We said, Eric, I guess he is just trying to find his approach, not copying you. I'm not saying he's copying me or not copying me. I don't care if he's copying me or not copying me. I'm saying we've discovered that this is the thing that matters. And so when you're around the thing that matters a lot, namely certain ideas of this, then all of a sudden typology gets clearer to you. And presumably, I sort of operated the assumption he's going to continue to get clearer, maybe even surpass my clarity at some point. But of course, if you mistake the forest for the trees, in other words, like, I know I'm going to find more forest over here where there are fewer trees because few people will look over here, not realizing you're walking out of the forest. Pretty soon you're going to find yourself around no trees, and you're going to be like, this is just as mushy as what happened? It used to make sense. So look, I do have a vested interest, both sort of intellectual, my just sort of worldview or whatever is that the truth should win, and that cognitive functions should be a strong argument, not a weak argument. So in that regard, I sort of prioritize the stronger arguments. But I also want to stress that I'm being asked here specifically about basically, well, not actually directly asked, but the subject's being brought to me is how much credence should Countess put in this typing? And of course, the thing to take away from this is not whether she should or not have credence in it, but how to answer that question. And the way to answer the question of how much credence should she put into the typing is, well, what was Spacey's justifications for his conclusions? Because you're not having faith in Spacey. You're not having faith in the conclusion. You need to believe it was reached properly, or else there's no reason to have faith in the conclusion at all. Okay, cool, Eileen. I don't mean to be fighty. I'm sorry. I guess it's like I got a lot of fightiness sort of inertia in me or something. I'm not feeling angry or anything. In fact, I visited my mom tonight at the home. It was very emotional for me because I don't argue that my typings are accurate. I argue that my typings are more well substantiated or more meaningfully substantiated than typings that substantiate with less robust measures. So I don't need to be right. I need to be righter than everybody else, which I am. And so when I do encounter sort of intellectual movement towards mushing, like just taking a different approach. No. All these approaches are in direct conflict with each other. To the extent they ought to actually conflict with each other and attain clash so we can eliminate the ones that are wrong. It's that simple. We don't want to encourage more mush. We don't want to encourage what you might call obscurantism, which is a word I learned today. Obscurantism. Well, what I agree with is that It's the only actual link we have that cannot be gamed to an element of personality and identity that manifests as a skill that we can actually test. And as such, since it is so much vastly and more significantly at a qualitative level substantiated than any other vector being used currently, then I would say that the most important thing to remember is that, yes, this correct discovery needs to be understood more deeply and developed further, and will be by people other than me. And it needs to be substantiated empirically, and it will be by people other than me. But the good news is, we can tell it's right because it fundamentally makes more sense and resonates at an NI level. We can also tell it's more reliable for us to believe in it because of the way I'm justifying it. I'm saying, actually, we can simulate this. And the ideal system of cognitive functions would be a program for simulating agents interacting in these systems as described under the prime directive as described, utilizing the cognitive functions with information directions as described, vectors, impacts, a finite system, a non-chaotic system that has aspects to it that will cause it to, in my as I envision it, which will cause it to evolve unpredictably, but in ways that mirror how people actually act. And so, I'm the only person who's saying, if we have the resources and the mind power, and people are willing to both listen to me and lead where I have lack of knowledge and stuff, we most certainly could falsify this. So in other words, I'm trying to make what I'm saying falsifiable. I want others to be able to prove by, if you can establish that my shit's all wrong. If we can't falsify an idea, it's not meaningfully an argument. It's simply a feeling. It's fully subjective. The difference between that which is objective and that which is subjective in terms of, I guess, argumentational soul is falsifiability. If something's falsifiable, that means other people can, using evidence available to everybody and predictions that you made, test those predictions and discover that, shit, it did turn out like you predicted. Or go, wah, wah. Nuh-uh, turns out applesauce doesn't turn into bunnies after 3 days. I've been watching it the whole time. So that's what you want something to do. If something isn't falsifiable, it's not a scientific idea. Now, not all good ideas are scientific ideas or something, but we have a clear distinction between something that's a theory, like relativity, which made a bunch of predictions, which could then be tested, and it was eventually somewhat sort of verified, sort of falsified, however you want to look at it. Okay. We have other kind of theories that are clearly either verified or falsified, like plate tectonics, which I talked about before. Once they realized what the empirics test was and how easy it was to determine, oh, here's the hypothesis we could use. If in fact it's plate tectonics, then fault lines will look like So how do we test that? Well, we go look at the fault lines and take data over a course of a few miles and discover that in fact they don't all go in. That they go, some of them go up and some of them go this way, and so combined with a couple of other pieces of empirical data that had been predicted by using intuition and analysis without any empirical data, and made predictions that couldn't be tested at the time the predictions were made. So it was left untested, but all we had to go on was its ideational fitness, its resonance as true, its correctness, its NI-ness, So plate tectonics was that. That guy was right. Everybody laughed at him. but they shouldn't have because he had given them a model that could be falsified. And so there's no reason to laugh. If he's wrong, falsify it. And if he were the only one, I don't know if this is the case, but if he were the only one providing a model that could be falsified, then everybody else should be laughed at because they're not doing science. So we have lots of examples of what a good scientific hypothesis looks like. It presents a notion that would invalidate the idea it's attempting to affirm. And it tries to present this way so that you can go test it yourself. You don't have to trust me at all. That's science. So I'm doing that with cognitive functions. Nobody else is. It's a clear, bright line that makes what I'm doing real and what they're doing bullshit. It's hard to find. I don't think it exists. And see, that's another reason you know I'm right. Why would I have exactly 3 polar tests? There's 8 functions. Why don't I have 8 polar tests? Well, because reality is driving me and my narratives. I'm not trying to say my narratives are what matter here. And if reality doesn't match up, I'll just pretend. Because I'm talking about something real, a real distinction, not an arbitrary name you make. So somebody else might go, well, that's a clear distinction, a clear display of a masculine function there. That's not a real distinction. What is a real distinction? People score between this range and this range on this specific test, and correlative with that range of scores is an apparent inability to conceptualize the thing that they're doing in varying degrees, equivalent to their success at the task itself. If you and so even with the sort of clumsy TI test that I have now, which I haven't broken down into the different kinds of things they're supposed to be testing a little bit, but even with that, you can have, okay, here's a clear range of things. And there's good reason to think it's not just intelligence or something stupid like that people don't have. There needs to be a better explanation for why 2 perfectly healthy functioning human beings, one of them can't answer the question, who's your mother's sister? And one of them can answer the question, who's your mother's sister's father's brother? Even though they're both fully functioning human beings. There needs to be an explanation for that shit. What specific skill is it that the one has and the other one doesn't? Well, it's an SI thing as well as a TI thing. So, you'll note that there's no good TI user that has SI any worse than 3rd, except for EHP's got it 4th. And that's it, really. And the thing is, you can see how EHPs don't do the genealogy questions less well because our TI is less good. It's that our TI is less good because our SI is less good. So TI requires SI to keep track of the symbolic representations of things that TI is converting back and forth from within frames by making them malleable. TI DOMs have the most malleable relationship with words. In other words, you can ask a TI DOM a question like, there are 42 sparkles in a banana pudding and 6 banana puddings in a treetop canopy. And they're like, wait, what is this thing you say? When you try to delink the words' actual meaning and just turn them into a symbol representing some general thing, and then convert them back to the actual meaning, it's that process that TI does. It converts them back and forth like that. But SI needs to keep track of all that shit. So when I say my TI is weak, what I really mean is I get tired of trying to remember shit. My SI is weak. My TI is probably plenty good at that, except when you get towards maximal testing of it. So when you do those kind of questions like, there are 6 sparkles in a banana pudding and 4 front lawn sprinklers in a Dodge Caravan, and you ask them what's the math equivalent, anybody but a TI DOM is going to be stuck on the meanings at some point. They go, wait, Dodge Caravan, 6 what's in a what? Whereas if you go, like there are 6 eggs in a carton and 6 cartons in a gross. How many eggs in a gross? Most people go 36. Because those words, even though gross doesn't mean 36, those words are comfortable unit words. We're accustomed to treating them as filler words. 6 eggs in a carton just means treat these 6 eggs as a set. It doesn't include any additional meaning. It's not like 6 eggs in a Dodge Caravan and 6 Dodge Caravans in a camel. You're going to picture eggs inside of a Dodge Caravan inside of a camel. So you can't help but have SI associations and NI associations. If you have a lot of SI associations, when they say 6 Dodge Caravans, you might be overwhelmed by your memory of your childhood trip in a Dodge Caravan and totally lose track of the TI shit. That would be like an ISFJ. When you say Dodge Caravan, you might be like me, go Dodge Caravan, and then come up with something that what rhymes with Dodge Caravan, and all of a sudden I've lost track of it. That might NE, or it could be I'm trying to listen and pay attention, but I just can't. It's too hard to remember everything. So, yeah, you don't have to panic on this. At this point, I'm interested. I'm curious. Okay, so I will. Yeah, I will type you. Why don't you go to autonomy.com? I mean, whereby.com/autonomy. Oh, I'm on Winston's mom's channel. I finally found Winston's mom's channel. I hadn't actually looked at it. You only have 35 subscribers, Winston's mom? And I'm not subscribed to you? Is she here? I'm sorry. I'm sorry, everybody, for being such an asswipe like that. I know I haven't looked at any of your channels or subscribed to any of them or anything. I suddenly feel kind of emo bad about it. That's third thought FE for you. It's like, not everything's about you, Eric. This is a lovely picture. Is this Octavia Silva's picture? T for Tumblr. T is for Tumblr, T is for Tumblr, T is for tumbling time. T is for tumbling time. Okay, so what am I doing? Oh, right, I forgot what I was doing. I'm going over to that room there, whereby.com/autonomy. All right, Countess, I'm going to ask you some SI questions. I don't want you to pay me anything. I just want to find out whether they're right or wrong. Now, look, if Spacey is right and you're an ESTJ, and I have to tell you that, I already know you're going to freak the fuck out. But if you are, I am going to have to tell you that. I'm not going to lie to you. But I don't personally don't expect you to be one. But whatever the tea leaves say, that's what it is. And by tea leaves, I mean introverted sensing tests. Well, come on, Countess. What are you doing? He said, now I'm here. All right, good. Now I'm here.
Patience is a virtue. Everybody knows this.
Okay, you got to turn me off of the other one, though. And you'll hear.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Hi. Where's my face?
I don't know. Oh, there you are. Hi. Hi, Countess.
Hi.
Okay.
Hi, Eric.
Live streamers, world lovers, people everywhere, animals everywhere, everything everywhere. The controversy is brewing to a fever pitch. Our Countess, also known as Countess 1, for some reason, our Countess has been typed by Spacey. Now, she has been telling us, and me, and I haven't ever really doubted it, she's an ENTJ for quite a while now. But the magma of controversy is overflowing the volcano because Spacey has typed her as ESTJ. And Countess doesn't like ESTJs.
No, I like them.
But you do like ESTJs.
Stop it, Eric.
Okay, sorry. It's all right.
I trust Betty, but I want to test my SI.
Oh, there's a wedding coming up on Saturday, okay? A wedding. You hear me?
Okay.
It's Judy's wedding. She's getting married. And well, there goes the neighborhood. There goes the neighborhood. Am I the one with the problem, or is Countess the one with the problem? Is it me or you,
Okay,
Countess?
sorry. I'll be back.
Okay, no problem. I mean,
I'll
yeah.
be back.
Yeah, refresh or something. You can turn off your camera. I just need to hear your voice. I don't need to look at you. It will have better humanity if we have problems. Okay.
No, I cannot hear. Okay, now.
Okay. All right. Fine. Cool. All right. So we're gonna talk about this wedding this weekend. Okay.
Okay.
It's Judy's wedding.
Okay.
And she's marrying Tad. All right.
Ted. What's Ted?
Tad's the groom, the boy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Judy and Tad are getting married this weekend, and they've got a wedding party in total of 32 people, including them. Okay. And they've been told to go to room 3 and wait for about 30 minutes for further instructions. Okay. The whole wedding party has. All right. So, and my next question is this: have you ever been to an actual wedding before?
Yes.
Who got married at that wedding?
Judy and Tom. No, Ted.
No, I said, have you ever been to an actual wedding before?
Oh, my sister.
Right, who got married? Your sister. Okay. Who did you marry? Who did your sister marry?
My brother-in-law.
Okay. And
Michael.
how long ago was that?
Maybe 8 years.
Okay. All right. How many hours of sleep do you get a night?
8 hours or 9 or 7, depends.
Okay.
Sometimes 6.
What role did Singapore play in World War II?
They were attacked by the Japanese.
Okay. Did Singapore have an army when they were attacked, or not really? No army.
No, because they were at the time we were a British colony, and then the British was in charge of the defense, and then they put some cannons facing the sea, and the Japanese came from Malaysia, which is the north.
So in other words, the British did a piss poor job of protecting Singapore.
Yeah.
Okay. So how long did Japan occupy Singapore for?
So World War ended when? 1949, is it?
No, 46 was the last year of the war.
Couple of years, I guess.
So was Singapore liberated before the end of the war?
I cannot remember.
Okay. Did you go to school in Singapore?
Yes.
Even for like elementary school?
Yes.
And how long do you go to elementary school in Singapore? Like how many years is elementary school?
Singaporeans go to elementary school, it's primary school. It's up to 12 years old.
Okay. And so are there 2 or 3 levels of school?
We only have primary and secondary school.
Okay. Um, when you were in primary school, did you have one teacher the whole day, or did you have a different teacher each period?
I think we have a few. We don't have one teacher.
Let's say you needed all of a sudden to
Mm-hmm.
to find a somebody to sell you and help you maintain, maybe we're not sure, a big grandfather clock. Do you know what
Okay.
do you know what a grandfather clock is?
Yes.
They're kind of old school. Anyway, so I say, look, and Countess, if you don't get this grandfather clock here installed and looking pretty at the house by tonight at midnight, tomorrow at noon, if that gives you 14 hours or something, then we're all going to be arrested and put into a concentration camp
Okay.
because the new government has implemented some very strict grandfather clock mandates. If you have not met your burden to have a grandfather clock, you will be put into hard labor. And we have gotten an extension. We put it off. You said we didn't have enough money for a while. And I know we don't have the money right now. We're going to have to spend at least 1,200 Singaporean dollars on this grandfather clock. And I don't think we have it right now. But we got to get a grandfather clock or we're going to hard labor in chains, Countess, you and me both. And our little dog Toto, too.
Okay.
So now, solve this problem for me, Countess. I'm a useless lump of a man who's terrified by this reality. I don't know what to do, Countess. I just got to sit here and you got to deal with it. Okay, you solve my problem, Countess.
Where is the clock again?
Yeah, I don't know. You just know the only thing you know is you have to acquire and install a grandfather clock into your house in the next 14 hours, or you're going to be shipped up to prison in shackles.
Google. Immediately go to Google, look for watchmakers and antiques. And then I will find a guy, some phone number. I will Google grandfather clocks because that's the easiest. If there isn't any grandfather clocks, I will look for antique watchmakers or clockmakers.
Okay. Have you ever gone shopping for a watch or a clock before?
No.
Okay. What did you have for breakfast this morning?
Something with bread.
Okay. What room do they have to go to at the wedding? That's
5.
I told you about at the beginning. Do you remember their names? The 2 people who were getting married?
Tom and Judy.
Judy, right. Judy and Tad. Yeah. Judy and Tad.
Tad.
Okay. Do you remember how many people were in the wedding party?
I remember.
Okay. Do you remember the name of the not first lady, not best woman, but what's the best man but a chick called?
Bridegroom, no, sorry.
Maid of honor.
No,
Maid of honor. Maid of honor.
Yes.
Yeah. You remember the name of the maid of honor?
I don't know who's the maid of honor. Okay. I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't think you told me about maid of honor.
Okay. So do you cook?
I'll think of you. Sorry, do I cook? Yes.
Okay. What kind of food do you cook?
Whatever that's easy.
If let's say I called you up. I was like, look, hey, Countess, Rachel's plane got diverted by a sudden hurricane, and they had to land in Singapore.
Mm-hmm.
Can she crash at your apartment tonight? Because the hurricane has also blown down all the hotels.
Mm-hmm.
Would you let her sleep at your house? Number one, I guess, first. Assuming you do, the real question is, are you aware of whether or not she eats dinner? Like, when you say, yes, you're coming over, do you think, okay, I'm going to have to provide dinner too? Or do you go, okay, cool, she'll come over. And then would you assume she'll take care of dinner herself by going out to dinner or something, you know?
I will ask her.
You'll ask her.
Yeah.
Okay. But do you know the definition of felony murder?
Felony or murder?
Felony murder.
What's felony murder?
Okay,
I didn't know
so
murder.
felony murder is if somebody dies as a result of some action of yours while you are committing a felony. So let's say I'm robbing your house of a large amount of stuff in your safe or something. Maybe armed robbery in your house. So they're going with guns, and I go, you stay here, you stay here. All right, let's go. We got all this stuff, right? Now, as I'm running out, Joe, the homeowner, jumps up to call the police because we're leaving, you know. But he grabs the phone, he trips on something the robbers had dropped on the ground, and falls and cracks his head open and actually dies right there on the spot. Now, he did manage to push 911 before he fell on the ground and died, and the cops get there pretty quick, and they actually arrest the guys as they're running away, okay? So now the cops have the three guys who robbed the house. And the homeowner guy is dead because he tripped when trying to call the cops, cracked his head open, and died, okay? So based on what I said, what's the determinant factor in who's responsible for the homeowner's death?
The guy came in, then she was shocked. He was like wanted to defend himself, so he called the police, and then he died because for some reason he fell.
So who's responsible?
I can't remember the middle part of what you said, but I think if he had a gun, I don't know who's responsible. I think it's a bit too far-fetched to say it's them, because if they didn't enter the house to try to rob the house, then he wouldn't need to call the police. So if the definition of felony murder extends to that, then yes, they are guilty, the person who tried to rob. But if felony murder means while committing a crime, you accidentally killed him, say you shoot him, or say he tried to jump out of the window and he dies, then yes. But if he saw and he was so scared that he went to call the police and then he tripped and fall, then I would say no, he's not responsible.
So you'd say no, he's not responsible, but you'd say under the frame of felony murder, he would be responsible.
No, I'm saying if because I'm not sure what you say in the middle. I only remember he tripping and falling while calling. So just
let me explain. Okay, so the guy comes to rob the house. Okay.
Okay.
You know, the guy's got a gun. He said, you homeowner and homeowner's wife, you sit there in that chair and don't move while I steal your stuff. And maybe ties him up a little bit or something. Okay. Now he didn't do a very good job of tying him though. So he quickly scoops out the safe, all stuff in his robber bag, and he runs out the door. Now the guy's not tied up really at all, so he just sort of, after he leaves the door and the guy's out the door and no longer an immediate threat, the guy jumps up to call the cops.
Okay.
But the robber has dropped something on the floor, and the guy trips over to something that the robber has dropped on his way to the phone, After he dialed 911, though, in a weird bit of timing, just cool. It's like he goes to he dialed 911, he's still moving forward, and then he puts 911 trip. Oh no! And crashes that open. Okay. The cops go, hello, hello. We'll send somebody out, and then they hear her wife in the background going, help, help, send somebody. She's a little bit more tied up, and the cops come out there and they capture the guy. They capture him. They get there fast. He's running away, and they see him, and they get him. All right, we got you. And they bring him back, and the wife's like, that's him, that's the guy. And the question is, who's responsible for the husband's death? And why?
Himself,
Himself?
because he tripped, right, on something that the rubber fell. Because if I want to look at causation, it's true. I don't know. This is really hard.
Well, what did I
would say that
start with? I said, here's the definition
they
of
were
felony
tied
murder.
up. They were tied up.
No, I started with the definition of felony murder.
Oh, okay.
That's what I mean by what I started with. So, what do you think? If you pick an advocacy and tell me why you're going at that one.
Okay, because my problem is that it is too wide. If you say that the robbers came and they fell and they and slipped on it and then fall, it's too wide to capture. To have come under this heading. Otherwise, everybody, yeah. I mean, he should be punished for robbing, and he should be punished for hurting if he does it directly. But leaving something behind accidentally and being punished for it is a bit too strict.
Okay, so what's the determinant factor though, and how it will play out in court?
I would say action and intention.
Okay, what's the definition of felony murder?
Causing the death of someone while committing a crime.
A felony, yeah, but close enough. That's right, basically. So, okay, this is really interesting. So, what's the determinant factor in the court case?
We will. I think I would try to find out whether, in the course of escaping, he caused the murder of the guy. And from here, I do not see yes. I don't see the answer yes. So, yeah.
You're not gonna like this, Countess. I think
right?
You just helped us to figure out an example of an NI polar test.
Okay.
The answer is very simple. The determinant factor is whether or not the guy was committing a crime when the guy died.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Now, you don't even have to answer whether or not that means he's guilty or not. It does. Yes, the guy's guilty of murder because not only did he jump up because of the crime, which caused him to trip, but he even tripped because of the crime because the guy dropped a thing on the ground. So it's definitely his death is linked to the crime in time and relationship in a way that means the determinant question is, did this death occur during a crime? If yes, the guy who's committing the crime is guilty of murder. If no, the guy who committed the crime is only guilty of the crime. That's the determinant factor. It's the determinant question. And the thing is, you want to collapse it down to utilitarianism, basically. A teleological question where you go, okay, what ought to be the thing to prioritize here? Well, what ought to be the thing to prioritize is real causality. Well, did he really cause it? So it's shifting from the TINI aspect of it to a TITE aspect of it. You go like, okay, well, here's how I'm going to TI validate with this empirics from TE, which is, it's like you're going for the most machine code level explanation of the TE, and the consequence of that is not seeing the NI. That one factor is determinant in this question, and it's not causality.
Oh, I'm worried about the definitions because I automatically think about the act and also intention, but I do not want it to be too broad because if it's too broad, it will start to capture a lot of acts. So I'm going through the public policy arguments here.
Yeah, well, that's true. I mean, look, the thing is, I specifically framed it in the beginning in terms of felony murder. And I tried to get the point across that in the court case, what's going to be determined? Well, there's a couple things you could have done there. You could have said, well, what crime is he being charged with? And the answer would have been felony murder. Or you could have assumed he was being charged with felony murder because I told you basically is what felony murder definition was. And I gave you a situation in which he did felony murder. And then you would have said, well, the determinant question whether you're answering the question, should he be held responsible for his death? Which I did ask. But then I also asked the question, what will happen in the court case? What matters in the court case? So the answer, should he be held accountable for his death under some sort of moral equation, is different than the question, will the law find him accountable? And if so, how and why? The determinant factor in the law is the question of whether or not he's committing a crime when the death occurs.
Okay, it's fair. Only towards the end I said whether the death occurred while he was trying to escape. Otherwise, he passed the time. Then we can
right. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's true too. You know, it's like if the guy dies 15 minutes later of a heart attack, it's a tricky one, right? Because he probably wouldn't have had that heart attack without the crime. But at the same time, at a certain distance, you can't really say it's linked anymore. So it's a tough gray area, and that's what the determinant question is, I guess. I'm not sure what I gleaned from that really there. You know, my conversation with you, I want to talk to you a little bit more.
I need to establish that I drew a line. So the line was that it's escaping. Anything above escaping is no longer, we can no longer charge him based on felony murder. He will not be responsible for the death of the guy.
Okay. Let me try another one of these kind of questions. I don't feel this is definitive results at all because I get the sense that there's a little bit of me misunderstanding you and you misunderstanding me that not having anything to do with cognitive functions, just sort of a slight bit of talking past each other maybe occasionally. So let me try another one of these kind of things.
Okay, but try and make it short a bit so I can follow because I'll forget.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So Jody, for her 16th birthday, the most important thing for her is that she get to go to the observatory and look through the big to see something in the sky. Okay. Now, what ends up happening on her 16th birthday is her dad gets her a present where she goes to the very top of a very tall building and looks up at the stars with binoculars, which is not the same thing she wanted, okay? And her mom gets her a gift of pictures from the gift shop of the observatory she'd like to go look through the telescope of, okay? And her friends all chip in to buy her the party, but instead of actually taking her to the observatory, they take her to a pizza restaurant called the Observatory and give her a present of a one-day pass to visit the observatory's non-telescope part.
Okay.
All right. So now Jody is pretty mad because she had expressed all of this shit to everybody. She told them what I want, you know? And she also knows that at least one, either your mom or dad or a friend, could have contacted the observatory and gotten her entity to look through the telescope. And So she talks to each of them in turn to figure out who to be mad at. Talk to her dad, and her dad says, well, I mean, sweetie, I thought your friends were going to take you to the observatory. That's what we understood. So I got you something kind of equivalent cool because I figured I can't, that's your friend's thing. I can't take you, you want your friends there. You don't want me. So, okay, well, yeah, I get what you're saying, Dad. Did they tell you they were going to take me? I mean, that's what everybody seemed to be implying. They did take you. They just didn't take you to the right place, right? And she's like, yeah, I guess so. And then she goes talk to her friends, and her friends go, well, your dad said he was taking you to see the stars, that he was going to do it, and that he would make sure that you saw all the stars you want to look at. Well, did he ever tell you he was going to take me to the observatory? Well, no, but I mean, that's what we figured he meant. She goes, God. Okay, let me go talk to my mom. And mom's the one who got her the stuff in the gift shop. Yeah. Okay. So mom's like, well, sweetie, I wanted to make sure that you had something to remember your experience at the observatory by. So I went and got you some souvenirs so that after your party there, you would still have something tangible to enjoy and take away from it. So it wouldn't just leave your memory right away. And she's like, well, who did you think was going to take me to the observatory? And she said, I don't know. I figured somebody else, but I didn't really think about it that much. So, who should she be mad at and why?
I chose my mother because she knows that I'm going there for the experience. So she should, if she talked to everybody else, she would notice that I wanted to go to look through the telescope because I wanted to have the experience of looking through the telescope. And so buying the picture is kind of silly because it's not the same.
Okay, but I mean, nobody told me that I was supposed to do that part.
Yeah, but you could have assumed. It's like telescope and then observatory is like.
Okay, well, honey, listen. I want to point out something. I'm not the one who took you to the wrong place. I just got you a present, sweetie. You had two people take you places. Neither of them took you to the right place. Why are you blaming me? I didn't take you to the wrong place.
No, you didn't, but you could have guessed. You were the best position to know.
Listen, both your dad had you out in the world in the car, could have taken you to the observatory, and your friends had you out in the world in the car, could have taken you. Why is it on my burden to assume that both those people who supposedly love you are going to totally fail to follow your wishes? Of course I'm going to assume they must have taken you there.
Because my dad would say, oh, they're going to take her to the observatory.
Your dad told me very clearly, he said she got to go see those stars and she got to see them with some magnification. And I assumed naturally that you had been at the observatory.
Yeah, but maybe he didn't, imagine that far.
Okay, well, why are you blaming me, honey? That's what I'm asking you, sweetie. I'm your mom. You know I've always been here for you. Your dad's a drunk. He's a no good Nick. You know that too. And your friends, frankly, bunch of sluts. So why are you blaming me?
But since you know that they are useless and you are the clever,
I just found out right now. I just heard about how they treated you, how horrible it was. I'm just shocked that you're trying to blame me. It must be your PTSD. You've suffered so much at the hands of your father and friends. You're just projecting it onto me. But sweetie, I didn't do anything. I got you these lovely gift shop presents.
No, but if you use common sense a bit, you could have extended, and then you will realize that the experience I was looking for.
Sweetie, I can't anticipate every way that your father and friends might fail. There are infinite ways they might fail. I'm just not that smart, sweetie. I'm sorry. I just wasn't good.
But looking at the stars with the binoculars versus going to observatory, there's enough facts to put a whole picture together. Okay,
well, I didn't do that, but I'm not sure why I'm getting blamed and your father and your friends are getting off scot-free.
The father, I cannot blame him because he could have easily mistaken observatory for the real one instead of a restaurant. And then
your friend took you to the restaurant. Your dad took you to the top of a tall building to look at stars through binoculars. How can he mistake that for a fucking observatory?
Because I think you said that he thought that the friends wanted to take him there to a restaurant named Observatory. So maybe he thought it was a real observatory.
Well, I mean, I thought they were taking you to the real observatory too. Why don't I get credit for the same fucking thoughts, huh? Huh? Cass, I thought you were my fucking daughter. I can't believe you're turning on me like this. It's your friend's fault, goddammit. Not
But
me.
you know, I don't get it. Since they're unreliable and then you're not unreliable.
Okay, you've got to be antipolar. Why her? Why blame her and not anybody else?
Because the dad thought he could easily thought that my friends are gonna take me there for real. Because he could have asked my friends, where are you taking her? I'm taking her to the observatory. And he would thought, oh, maybe.
So why did you blame your friends then?
And then sorry?
Why did you blame your friends then?
I forgot the story about the friends. Only that they went to a restaurant.
Yes, they took you to a restaurant called the Observatory instead of the actual observatory.
Maybe they don't know that my real desires, because I am blaming my mother, because my mother knows my desire is to see stars. But they could have thought that I just wanted a puppy.
Because your mother knows your desires?
Yeah.
Listen, sweetie, ever since you hit puberty, I have not known your desires anymore. You've turned into a wild girl.
But you got a picture of me with stars, so you know my desire is to look at stars.
Countess?
Yeah.
I looked it up. That dildo that I found in your room the other day sets the Guinness World Record. That's what you become now. Why? Because you side with your father and your friends against me, your mother. Now I want you to find a good reason to blame somebody else right now, or you're grounded.
Okay. So my dad he knows I was going to look at stars, and he knows that if he has common sense to go up to the top of the building to allow me to look at stars, then he would have known that I really wanted to go to observatory, and common sense would say that nobody can just walk into the observatory without making a reservations. And adults will normally arrange it. And if he wasn't sure that it was arranged, he could have called them and asked, did you arrange the real observatory? And everything. And my friends will also ask my parents what does she really want. They don't know what I want. Because the problem is that they didn't find out what my motives and my intentions were. If they found it out, they would have known that I didn't want to go to a restaurant, but I want to go to the real observatory.
Okay, so that's a good reason to blame your friends, you're saying?
Yeah, how's that?
So why do you still blame your mom?
Because she knew, when I looked at all the three of them, she's the one that's most likely who knew that of my intentions. I wanted to look at stars.
I know. But listen, what I also knew is that two other parties were already planning to solve that problem. Now let me ask you this, Countess.
Mm-hmm.
If I had taken you to the observatory and what I had thought were true, and you had just gotten back from going to the observatory, returning from the observatory, being taken to the observatory again, and returning from the observatory again, and I said, come on, Countess, let's get back in the car. We're going to the observatory a third time this evening, even though it's a 45-minute drive, and you've only stayed there 15 minutes each visit, and we're going back a third time. We're going to sit in traffic, we're going to drive there again and back. You wouldn't have been happy, would you? You would have said, Mom, that's not considerate. You're forcing me to go to the observatory more than I want to now. I did want to go to the observatory. That doesn't mean I want to fucking live there. So that's what you would rightly have said to me. You said, Mom, you're overloading me with observatory. So what I'm saying to you now, Countess, is naturally, given the fact that the other two parties indicated they were taking you for some sort of star shit, I don't know, I assumed that any attempt by me to do so would create a toxic level of redundancy in observatories. You can't blame me, okay? You don't want me to poison you with excess observatory time, do you?
Yeah, that's true. Because I'll scream at you if you take me there again.
Okay, well, I mean, look, it is true what she's saying, right? That you don't want to go to the observatory multiple times, maybe twice, which is probably not 3 times, especially if it's kind of a long distance away in the same day, right?
Yeah.
But is there really reason to believe that your mom actually thought that both the other two parties were going to take you to the observatory, and that her opportunity would then be to give you presents or take you to the observatory the third time after the second visit? Do you really believe your mom really believed that? That's the question.
Honestly, no. I mean, like, if she didn't know, if she would have checked with them, she would have known that I'm not going to observatory. But she didn't check, and
Damn that woman, huh?
yeah.
Okay, so let's say your mom agrees finally. She goes, Countess, you were right. You were right. I should have checked. I'm sorry. I really am. I'll make it up to you. I'll tell you what. Do you want to go get pizza this Friday? I hear there's this place, great pizza place called The Observatory. We could go there instead of the actual observatory. Would you like to?
No, I'll kill you.
Okay, I'll tell you what. How about we go look at paintings of the word observatory in the Observatory Museum? Would that be good enough?
No, I mean, I want to go to observatory more than just look through the telescope. I wanted to, study some stuff or whatever. So it's not the same.
God, you're not a very good team player, Countess. I tell you, you seem to think that what you want matters most. Don't you know that it's what everybody wants that matters most? What you want doesn't matter.
No, I'm just annoyed because the problem is very easy to solve if only everyone talked to each other.
Okay, I agree. Everybody should talk to each other. My question is, why aren't you blaming yourself for failing to initiate that trilateral communication?
I already assumed that. I told everybody I want to go to observatory because I want to look at stars. I would have done that. I would have told everybody that.
In fact, you created the problem, didn't you? By telling each party separately and not coordinating a trilateral intercommunication between the three parties, you created this confusion. You made your bed, Countess, now lie in it.
That's true. That's not true. I would have told everybody. I would have told everybody specifically. It's not
Okay. Do you want cereal for breakfast or waffles, honey?
I don't care.
You don't care? All right. How do you want your coffee? You want cream, sugar, honey? What?
I don't drink coffee. I only drink tea.
You only drink tea? When did that happen? Yeah. I have been your mother for the whole life, and I breastfed you on coffee. You've always been a coffee lover. What happened?
This is real, My mom didn't know that I didn't like this dish, and she kept cooking for me. I didn't eat it. So one day she said to me, "Why did you not eat my food?" Did I say, "Because I never liked it."
What's the dish called? What kind of food is it? Like curry or something?
Something like that. Yeah, it's fish inside.
Okay, yeah. I don't like fish either.
Yeah.
If God wanted us to eat fish, He wouldn't have made cows and chickens and pigs.
Yeah.
Okay. So what was you think the determinant factor in World War II was?
Failure in diplomacy talks, and also unbridled ambition, and also people following someone's vision without questioning rationale or taking into account their own morality. They don't question morality. They just follow blindly.
Okay, well, what was the most important factor in determining who won the war?
I wanted to say the bomb very much, but I think they were already losing before then, right? Because a lot of doctors were lost, and towards a certain point, they were starting to retreat already, and then there were more and more people joining in.
So what was the determining factor then?
The loss of many battles and more allies getting together, and they have no place to go. Something like that.
Okay. See, I think like an NI answer to that question would be something like Nazi overreach. You go like, what was the cause? What was the ultimate decisive factor in who won World War II? Nazi overreach. They should never have invaded Russia. Like that. An NI answer,
Okay.
I think that you think those kind of answers are ridiculous because there is no single determining factor or something like that. It's a multiplicity of different factors. But I don't want to put words in your mouth. What do you think?
I think the reason is because they have lost a number of battles and there's no hope for progressing further. They have reached their limit and now they can only go backwards. There's no chance of going further. That's my reasoning.
Okay. So it's interesting. I mean, I think this is helping us all, including Spacey and me and anybody else who watches and tries to apply things. It's teaching us how to check for NI-polar a bit. Countess is very resistant here to giving me what I would consider a determinant factor. And this is, you remind me, not exactly in terms of your ways of my dad at all, really. My dad's much more like, he's less fun. You're pretty fun, but you do have a similar quality of, like my dad, right? He went and consulted a lawyer about this whole Canada thing. To have the lawyer tell him what I had already told him and what he had told me as well, that there's no way he could possibly be liable for anything. And but the thing is, to me, it seems impossible that one could draw any other conclusion. I don't need a doctor to know that my hand shouldn't be severed from my wrist, for example. I think it's not supposed to be like that. I can tell without any doctor that there's something wrong here, right? In a similar way, it's like you don't need a lawyer to tell you that Becky can't sue you, for example, because she's mad at me. That doesn't make any sense. Just because somebody's my dad doesn't make him liable for my shit. Doesn't mean he's that suing me is the same as suing him. So it makes no sense at all, right? You don't need a lawyer to tell you that. But of course, my dad does, because I think what he sees it as is he just wants to have dotted the I's and crossed the T's, which means that if in fact this thing were to sort of whip up into something, well, I will have done the pre-work. I will have talked to a lawyer already. I will have done which denies the idea that it's not possible for it to be now, because there's no conceivable way. I mean, she could sue him, I guess, in some sense of filing a lawsuit, but he'd have to refuse some sort of demand of hers first. And he's already met her only demand, that she retracted as a demand even. So, and she's, it's like the idea that you have to consult a lawyer about this. If he has to consult a lawyer about this, he'd have to consult a lawyer if the Girl Scouts came by and said, remember, if these Girl Scout cookies are used in the commission of a mass murder, you will be held liable.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, Dad, the thing is, they're saying if you use these Girl Scout cookies in a mass murder, you'll be held liable. I don't want to take any chances there. If it said, if you use these cookies to transmute gold into lead, would you still see the lawyer? If it said, if you use these cookies to make a flock of unicorns, will you still see the lawyer? Just because it references legal action, he thinks that you need to use a legal solution. It's a different frame of reference. The thing is, what that really is NI-polar. It's why it gets me frustrated when I'm dealing with him. It's like, Dad, but he's not worried about the NI. He's not saying, look, son, he didn't explain it this way, but it could be like this. Look, son, the fact is, she's talking about legal action. Whatever her actual justification, she could always come up with some random new complete lie about me and choose to sue me directly now. And because it's been mentioned, the risk of it occurring is higher. And so we initiate the protocol we do when legal action has been threatened. It's not a terrible approach to take. It makes enough sense. It's just prioritizing TE at the expense of NI all the time and in favor of SI. Well, I know what I've experienced. I've experienced that I've been threatened with some sort of legal action. I know that I've experienced receiving something that sounded like it had some legal language in it. Those are sort of my associative triggers for when we need to talk to the lawyer, and the specifics of the shit don't matter. So I think you're doing that same thing, and I don't mean to be. The way I was talking about it right now was kind of like dissonant or something. I didn't mean to do that at all. My dad is an extremely smart guy who I respect immensely, and he's an ESTJ. He has a PhD in philosophy. All right, and he's very successful, and he's, it's like there's nobody I respect more really in the entire universe. So don't if whoever thinks ESTJs are weak or something, not at all. And if you successfully are loved by an ESTJ, whether it's your father or your mother or your whatever, Rachel and I are both loved by ESTJs. We might not always be treated with kid gloves. ESTJs have a tendency to be harsh, but we are actually safe because we have an ESTJ looking out for us ultimately, and they're not going to let anything happen to us. And so that's the thing where God would strike me down if I had a single negative thing to say about ESTJs, considering just how totally fucked I'd be without mine, namely my dad. So, yeah, I'm going to have to go with Spacey on this one. And I'm going to have to suggest that, in fact, picking on this challenge of SI testing you has revealed a lot about the nature of antipolar and how we might be able to spot it, and how it's very easy. I'm actually, Spacey did a great job in identifying it, because it's very easy when you get an intellectual ESTJ and they're talking more about ideas and less about their own experience to mistake that ideational quality as intuition. So when I first encountered types, I thought my dad was an ESTJ, and I realized when I learned about functions more and more and more, no, he's not. I'm going to agree with Spacey, although I'm only going to type you ESTJ at about 90% because I only did maybe 80% or something, because I only did one kind of test,
Yeah.
Okay, but assuming that given the fact that it would have been neat, I would have liked it if Spacey were wrong. I was kind of hoping, I had my fingers crossed he was wrong. But anyway, there you go. Thanks for being here, Countess. And
so much.
It's not. I didn't record this, by the way. I forgot to record it, but it is on the live stream that's going on still. So you can't see you though. You just hear you.
Okay, it's no problem.
All right. Thanks, Countess. Bye.
Thank you so much, Eric. Bye.
That was interesting. That was really interesting. Yeah, so Spacey was right. And I test more for you. All right, exactly. I was trying to, yeah, exactly. Antipolar. Who knew? I mean, I would never have guessed that if I had. That's why we need tests and not just guesses, right? Hambo, do you agree with me that I got that right? Were you listening to that? The friends, obviously. They're the ones who had the great plan to take her to a place called the Observatory. It was actually a pizza restaurant, which was the source of all the confusion. Type me on poor, and dreams are made of this. Forever remember. Thank you, Mrs. Mom. Thank you, Relaxing Rain Walker. Thank you, Countess, for participating a lot. You owe me nothing, Countess. I appreciate that. I appreciate letting me do that test. I mean, that's seriously, you owe me nothing, because we really did have a little bit of, I feel like I had a little bit of a breakthrough there in terms of understanding how to look for antipolar. I'm always afraid to keep pushing. Yeah, if you want to throw Spacey an extra $20 and say, Eric said tip, instead of giving him anything, tip you a little, or $10 or whatever. Tip you a little something for being right. That'd be cool. that would I would appreciate. That's like Effie third slot, like, fuck yeah. But if he's done, it's fine too. I don't give a fuck. I'm gonna smoke a cigarette. That was nice. I feel emotional. I feel so close to you people. I think so. I really value all of you people who are here in the chat. Eileen, Winston's mom, Countess, Tatum, Ethan, Hambone. I don't want to go and try to name everybody just for the sake of doing it, but I really value everybody who's here a lot. And I value having this place of warm friendship, as I see it. Yeah, shut up, Octavio. Don't call me a crybaby. Octavio, you're hurting my feelings. Stop it right now. I feel threatened. I feel threatened. Somebody call the police. Yeah, I know, Hambone. We do. Yeah, I have a strong fondness. Yeah, sure. And I really appreciate when I really appreciate that Countess is that brave. She's willing to, even though she came in, no, I'm not afraid. She's brave and she's willing to hear an answer that she probably didn't really want to hear, and I didn't really want to tell her. And I found myself going off on these weird tangents of sort of like talking about how frustrating my dad is, and remembering she's in the STJ, and God damn it, Eric, you're fucking up the FE here. Like in that 10-hour live stream earlier, like yesterday, whenever that was, I really only made one mistake in it. And the funny thing is, after this 10-hour live stream, I had one takeaway that was slightly negative. Well, I mean, CS Joseph kicks everybody out. I'm surprised Countess lasted 5 seconds there. I said something about Rachel that was a harsh sounding joke that I wish I hadn't made, or something like that. It was just a brief moment out of 10 hours where my increasingly polished NEFE really, my NE got ahead of my FE or something, right? Of course, this is like a 10-hour long live stream, right? Of course, I go to Google Hangouts or my phone and write them on my phone maybe, and she said, that thing he said kind of stung. And I'm like, I knew exactly what she was talking about. I didn't need any details. I was like, fuck. And that's the fun, thing about, oh, thank you, Sergi. Thank you for reminding me. It's my bowl of guinea pig soup. These days, I really can't get ready for bed without having a large bowl of fresh, hot guinea pig soup. A little tarragon in there, some Worcestershire sauce, some guinea pig garnish, some assorted Christmas guinea seasonings. It is delicious. Delicious, let me tell you. Although I should warn you, it is important to stir up the powdered guinea pig, else it won't melt into the soup. This is powdered guinea pig here. Let's see. You can get it at specialty stores, like Guinea Pigs R Us. We got guinea pigs. Why aren't you eating guinea pigs? Why aren't you eating guinea pigs? Exclamation point, question mark. Is a business I'm considering. It's in the Shark Tank. It's in my metaphysical Shark Tank right now. I'm not sure if why aren't you eating guinea pigs? Question mark, exclamation point. It's going to be my next restaurant, but it might. The funny thing is, they don't actually serve guinea pigs there. It's just a guinea pig butcher shop. And it's really hard to actually acquire any guinea pig meat because most people who she wanted me to take it down. She asked me to take it down. I always take shit down. People ask me. The funny thing is, of course, if you have an actual complaint about a specific video, it is very easy usually to get me to take it down. And if it's not, it's because I'm being slacky and not looking at my email or something. You know, if you do a little legwork, and just ask nicely, I'll take down anything. You don't even have to give me a reason. I don't give a fuck. I got so many videos. Who cares? But of course, so where does conflict arise? When people have conflict with me, it arises because they want to leverage me. I hate being leveraged. You think ferrets eat guinea pigs? Do they? Would a ferret kill the guinea pig? Because guinea pig seems like it's like almost the same size as a ferret. Well, it looks like coffee whitener. But he didn't actually tell her not to worry about the actual observatory. She just told them, yeah, I'm taking her to see the stars. She saw them through magnification, which, she did. He never mentioned, he never said anything about an observatory. He never said he had already taken care of the observatory responsibility. He just said that she had seen the stars through magnification. I don't know why he would say that, but that's what he says. Thanks, Hambone. Yeah, I just want to be subscribed to you anyway because you're a friend. Thanks, Countess. The FE matters. The specific wording was supposed to be Eric didn't want my money. Or Eric said to give my money to you as a tip because you were right. A little FE jab in there, you see. That's okay. I don't care. It's whatever. I don't actually care what your message was. It doesn't matter. I just think it was fun. That's the bottom line is, that's the kind of thing I don't mind doing for fun because there's a specific, okay, this is an interesting question now. Fuck the money. Now I actually want to do this. So who cares, Let's see. What did Sergey ask? I want to hear another. Who did you kick for what? Countess is always getting into battles with people. You are a fighty lady. Um, yeah, he did well. He did a great job. Yeah, don't bother, Countess. Just leave it as it is. Whatever. Don't say anything else. It's fine. I just, yeah, he did a great job. It's funny because my initial sort of like, I'm gonna find where you did wrong because he's not doing it my way or something. Kind of backfired on me, But it kind of paid off too because it's like it shows that I'm not biased, right? I may have wanted him to be wrong, but I go with what the truth is. See, Joseph kicked you out, Countess? What a big meanie. Why did he kick you out? Don't tell me you questioned his wisdom. Yeah, I am in a great mood, actually. I really appreciate this thing. It's strange having those huge, long ass live streams. It sort of opened up for me kind of a better sense of what this is. And oh, I see. C.S. Joseph called your friend that. Why does C.S. Joseph call your friend that? Like, was he making a specific concrete accusation about a specific act about regarding another person in the community? Or making just sort of a general critique that you carry that vibe or whatever? I don't. And the thing is, also, I don't take full credit for Spacey's skills, understanding, or whatever. Spacey had his own various typology things coming in. Yes, he adopted the stuff from me that validated for him, which he indicated to me on a couple of occasions was consistently more than he expected. Like he didn't really realize that this was actually going to validate. Being an IHP means he assumes nobody else can think. Um, but regardless, UP Gardening Adventure isn't talking about species. She's talking about um, the point is, I don't want to try to take any credit for Spacey's success exactly. I appreciate the fact that he's taking the right approach to it, which is he came in and said, "Oh, I underestimated your approach here, and it does prove a lot more valid than I expected, and I will adopt those things as best I can that I have seen actually established pretty well." INTPs are extremely skeptical, so it takes they have a large burden of proof, and my appeal to NI as a justification doesn't pass their scrutiny because it's countervalued more, and it's also demonstrative, which means they don't really use it to evaluate things themselves in any sense, or to know, or as a way of they don't use it in their epistemology willfully and willingly. Exactly, they use it kind of reactively. So, it's nice. It's very validating for me then when an IHP goes, "All right, yeah, my level of scrutiny has been satisfied now," and that's cool. I just yeah. I keep thinking. I keep wondering what he's doing with it. Like with the tangle. You call it a tangle, okay? The tangle is this. The tangle is he has his SI understandings of who I am, and he's got his NI understandings of who I am, which he may or may not value. He's got, additionally, his TI understandings of what's correct or sustainable, you know, like which arguments can be supported and which ones are a stretch but spinning, and which things are just unrelated to the truth. And you know, I observed him on a couple of occasions in the past working hard, by which I mean trying to communicate in ways that resolve the cognitive dissonance created by his girlfriend's unreasonableness. You know, it's one thing to accuse somebody of something totally legit that they actually did and not exaggerate it at all and do it genuinely, not disingenuously. That's what I did. The second level is spinning shit from an interested calculus. Like, I'm going to use my disinterested skills with equivalencies to spin shit to serve my interests and not care about disinterest at the metaframe level or the frame level. That's what Beckett does. But then there's a third thing, which is just like it, you know, there's no caring about whether it links to anything that can be even remotely TI supported. It's not spinning, it's just whatever words could I say that could hurt him, factoring in the consideration that they got to be at least sort of believable, or at least something that people can't directly challenge me on to produce some sort of evidence. So a whole bunch of like Eric's a scumbag kind of shit. I'm guilty of that stuff too. I say that kind of stuff too about them sometimes. Certainly have in the past. But the difference is the way it's substantiated. Like, his girlfriend says stuff like, well, the example I've used on a number of occasions before that I'm a misogynist. I hate women. I only treat them as maids or sex objects, and you know, these are accusations leveled against me, right? So right, that's the third kind of thing. I'm trying to be genuine. Becky's trying to be valid but disingenuous, and Tori is just trying to be. It's sort of trying to avoid being caught in clear examples of obvious lies, but otherwise has no regard for consistency of reality. So, but I'm not trying to bless Tori's chest or whatever. I don't give a fuck. Who cares? What I'm saying is that I feel for I want to know what's going on in Spacey's head about all this stuff. Like, how does he reconcile? What does he do with it? Does he just say, okay, look, you and I aren't going to talk about the subject because it's going to cause conflict? Does he go? You try to talk to her? I mean, I've seen that in the past where he's trying to get through to her, you know. But I suspect in this context it would just cause an explosion because, you know, I think every significant other sort of has a few like cards to play. Or there are a couple people, you know, a significant other can expect, if it doesn't happen very often or really ever, if I come home and say, okay, look, there's this person who's caused so much trouble in my life that I despise this person. And to be on my side means you must hate her irrationally too, let's say. It's like everybody kind of gets one of those chits to play, right? In their relationship. But it's really only healthy to have that play out if everything else is super smooth and easy. Then okay, all right, I'll side with you, and then you're wrong. But even then, you're siding with somebody even though they're wrong. You should be telling them, "I'll not side with you even though you're wrong, but I'm not going to tell you you're right." And I see Spacey's doing more kind of that thing. Like I haven't seen Spacey chime in anything against me in a while. I suspect it's because he just couldn't sustain those contradictions very long. In fact, even when he was trying to chime in against me, he ended up saying, well, Eric uses technical truths to get around the real thing or something. Basically saying he's not really lying, but he's still being which doesn't really mean anything. There was a little bit of that at the beginning. Of course, I think I blocked him from the channel at some point, probably because probably Tori uses accounts to leave some hateful shit or whatever. Hey, I get that he's decided to help her. He wants to help her. I totally get that, and I respect that. And I'm that same guy. I spent 2.5 years with Kimberly. I wish he hadn't married her. That's the one thing I try to convey to him about this. Hey, you're with a chick, whatever. I mean, it's like, wait, so now this chick's here? Okay, well, no. But the thing is, apparently, she calls him her husband. I don't know if they actually are married or not, but I think they are. I said, look, you got to just don't do the marrying thing, okay? Just don't get married because there's no reason to. No hurry. Just give it a couple years. But she wanted to get married probably right away because well, it empowers her to be more difficult, I guess you say. No, they're not married. Oh, so yeah, she didn't like her parents, but she also didn't like me saying shit about her parents. Interestingly, so one of our mini conflicts was when I made the song by Tori's father. Again, which I was perfectly entitled to do because I had plenty of conversation with him myself. It wasn't like it was hearsay. I dealt with the guy for hours on the phone. So, but she wanted to be mad at me for making a song about her and her dad. I was just like, first of all, I'm taking your side in this song entirely. And it didn't matter. She just didn't want. It doesn't matter. I wanted to be talked about like TFB. And she doesn't like that. She doesn't like not being able to force things. She really likes being able to force things, as far as I can tell, because what I saw was this fake hospital visit thing that she did when she couldn't force anything with me. She couldn't get into a successful battle of wills that she could win, and I made her leave. She had to go outside and sit in my car in order to reclaim the frame and require her attention to be prioritized. She faked an illness and insisted Space take her to the hospital, where they said, you're fine. There's nothing wrong with you at all. And then, even after all that, Spacey called and said, "Hey, I don't want to call you right now, but she's really pushing me to call you. Could you possibly give us a ride home from the hospital?" I mean, now that's somebody who's not understanding that other human beings are human beings too. That things have to be sustained, substantiated. Um, expecting it's going to be okay to openly disrespect me in my own home, refuse to listen to me, deny simple things that anybody should be able to agree about so we can make some progress, insist you refuse to learn anything from me, continuing to be mad at me and believe that she should be able to scold me because I'm not giving her and Spacey enough money, and that a good warrant for this is that me and Rachel are living more comfortably than they are. All of that shit, right? After all of that shit. And it blows up in her face. And I send her outside and, no, you have to go sit in the car now. I didn't even tell her to go sit in the car. I said, just go away. She just feels entitled to go sit in my car when I tell her to leave my house, But regardless, the key thing here is she was determined most of all to be defiant. In other words, she was not going to let anybody but her control the frame, even if she had to break her own leg so that she created an emergency. So everybody had to deal with her now. She didn't actually break her own leg, obviously, but you get what I'm saying. It's like, he feels some obligation to her after he saved her, probably. Yeah, I mean, I kept me with Kimberly for a long time. I felt an obligation. It's like, okay, well, look, I've come into your life and I've disrupted your original life and I've set things up. So now you've got these, you had other possible pathways. Those now are closed because I've come and taken on this role in your life. So I'm going to do everything I can to make this work. Yeah, Spacey's a great guy. I mean, he is doing what he believes to be his moral duty, Unfortunately, that's not a reason to stay with someone, Eileen, because that's not actually love. That's SI attachment, familiarity, associations between a given person, physical intimacy, and relationship status and other stuff. It's the way that being with a person impacts your overall ontology is extremely complex. And there are absolutely determinate factors that render it binarily meow or meow. But neither Spacey nor Tori is going to very easily attend to those determinate factors and treat them as such. Tori won't, because no matter what the determinant factor is, she's only going to look for and find those determinant factors that are consistent with and uphold and better support her SI, her experiential knowledge. In other words, what she feels like knowing, whatever, which is, well, Eric made me feel bad, therefore Eric harmed me. Of course, I never made her feel bad. She feels bad. She felt bad for complicated reasons. Who knows what? I didn't coddle her. And that meant that she had to be sort of an agent with autonomy a little bit. She had to take ownership for her own behavior and actions. She couldn't play rebellious teen with me. I have no patience for that stupidity, Well, look, I don't think that's fair, Eileen. This is what Becky does to me. She wants to pathologize me and say that I'm a narcissist or I need help or whatever. No, I have never said anything like that about Becky. I don't say those sort of things about her. I've never said those sort of things about her. And I also don't say that about Tori. In fact, I would say explicitly she does not need professional help. She needs no professional help. She needs to have all such intimations towards that sort of thing rejected as examples of bad behavior, because she's already demonstrated that that's one of her vectors of dishonesty, is malingering, or basically seizing the frame through um, falsifying your SI status because it's subjective or whatever, So because nobody can really verify my stomach hurts, I can just make up whatever SI factor I want in order to justify. Everybody has to prioritize my frame now. Of course, crying wolf doesn't work for very long, obviously, and reality creeps in ways that are going to be more or less tolerable to Spacey. Like, it's fine if she's just talking shit to me and whatever. Eric's a tough guy. Eric can handle it, and Spacey may know her bullshit is just spiteful bullshit, or at least that it's motivated by spite and not constrained by the truth. You might recognize that at least. But as long as it's sort of limited in its directionality, he doesn't necessarily need to do anything about it because he knows I can handle myself and it's fine. The problem is, that when Tori contacted Rachel during her psychotic episode, that comprised an indefensible act once it came out what was going on. So because of the way she did it, Rachel was confused and texted Spacey during a moment of psychosis. And Spacey didn't reply, but Tori took that ball and ran with it and basically tried to put together Eric character assassination team meeting, What was most telling about the thing was that Tori explicitly made it clear that she only wanted to talk to Rachel if Rachel wanted to hear only negative things about me. I mean, she actually made that like an explicit rule. So, of course, that came out in my videos around the time. And basically, that was Tori's Becky moment, where that's what I think, where Spacey sort of realized, okay, look, you can be a bitch, but you can't actually be evil because I'm gonna have a problem with that. I'm a good guy, and I don't. What you're doing here is ridiculous. Rachel and Eric obviously love each other. You keep trying to tell Rachel that Eric's a psychopath who is incredibly controlling of her and won't let her have her own phone and gives her no privacy and stuff. All of which are just complete fabrications, completely unrelated to reality. And continuing to gaslight Rachel when she's in a state of psychosis by basically trying to tell her that I'm gaslighting Rachel. Of course, it's really weird because obviously Rachel and I love each other a lot and we have a great relationship. And I am obviously not manipulating and controlling and being like, a chauvinist who you stay here no, Rachel wouldn't put up with that for fucking 5 seconds. I mean, not even anything like that at all. So when she describes to Rachel a person who is a narcissist, who's controlling her, and who's basically who hates women essentially, and wants to reduce them to objects of one sort or utility of another sort, and she's trying to pitch this reality to a person who's in a state of actual mental illness and is possibly susceptible to, suggestion of that sort. I am quite certain that Tori didn't know at that time that Rachel was in a state of psychosis. And so the problem isn't that Tori knowingly did that. The problem is that that's why you don't do that kind of shit across the board in general, because sometimes it might work and you're lying fundamentally. Like if somebody is susceptible enough to your suggestion, in theory, I guess a fairly happy couple could be torn apart by such efforts. Now, obviously, Tori had never had any chance with Rachel. If anything, she only had the opportunity to bring us a little closer together because we had somebody who was functioning as a common enemy. She obviously was the enemy of our relationship. She was trying to separate us from each other. She was obviously the enemy of me because she was trying to defame me to Rachel and every bad thing she could think to say that wasn't specific. So when Rachel would ask her, well, what specifically is it that Eric did that was so bad? Crickets, That's her goal, though. Her goal is to, defame and harm me and stuff like that. Okay, right, fine. I mean, I knew that the whole time, and everybody knows that the whole time. Listen, Mrs. Mom, this is a TE mistake here in general. Why won't this harm me? Because in order to render a judgment against me on this matter, the people who judge against me are going to have to listen to it. No right-thinking person wouldn't be swayed by my honest and earnest truth. In any kind of a court, any kind of a lawsuit, both parties have the opportunity to speak, ask questions, and answer questions. And this is the problem that my current opponents have when it comes to life in general, is they want to control the public frame. And they're trying to use elements of the public frame to control it. One element of the public frame that often works for people is legal language. You can accomplish amazing things in this life if you were unethical simply by threatening to sue people with no grounds whatsoever, but a good playbook of legal words and threatening sounding phrasings and stuff. The majority of people, no matter how little credence there is to the claim, no matter how actually impossible it would ever be for them to follow through on it, are nevertheless intimidated by legal threats. The problem that somebody like Tori has or Becky has if they want to try to sue me is multiple fold. One, the thing they're trying to do right now anyway is avoid having their story heard, avoid having their story told, because I'm telling it from the perspective of an objective and honest observer and not from the perspective of an ally trying to reinforce their reputation or whatever. But because they want to keep the story out of anybody's ears, deep down they know, unfortunately for them, that the one place they definitely have to stay out of is court. Because as long as they stay away from court, they don't have to be held to account. They don't have to actually answer any questions. They don't have to be honest. They don't have to ever be held to account for their contradictions. They don't ever have to sit before me as I stand over them and meow, 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 meow. Right? Tori's absolute worst nightmare in life is Eric questions her in front of people and she has to sit there and answer. In fact, she gave up any support from me for them, and it's like I said, okay, basically you, me, Tori, Rachel, we got to go meet at the McDonald's because we got to figure out your housing. You're running out of your housing time here. I'm pretty pro. We got to figure this out. What we're gonna do here, and we still need to resolve the Tori problem because she stormed off that fake hospital shit. She's gonna have to be held to account for that. She refused to go to the meeting, and at the meeting, Spacey revealed to me that she's been spending all of her time in the war room poisoning people against me. At which point I said, that's it. No more. So, the point of it is that there's no Spacey's too smart not to know all of this. And he sounds, I don't know, I'm talking about Tory because, I don't know, the subject came up. Oh, I mean, here's basically what I'm doing. I'm explaining to everybody why I don't need to worry about whether or not I talk about these people. And there's lots of reasons. In fact, it's important I do talk about them ultimately because it is explanatory and sets the precedent needs to be set. It is not okay for some people to intimidate others such that every human being's right to know and hear is restricted so that their ability to keep me silent is preserved. No sane human being would want to prioritize things in that way. I will close it. Yeah, I emailed them. Yeah, here's the other thing. No lawyer will take that case on spec for either of them, because taking a case on spec means you have a genuine belief that you probably will win and get money out of it and be able to make money as a lawyer. If you have any reason to believe as a lawyer that either you're probably not going to win, or that the person you're going to win a settlement against can't pay you any money because he's broke, or that the amount of the settlement will be small enough that it won't be worth your time as a lawyer, you will never take it on spec. You will require a retainer first. And this is why whenever I deal with people like this in the world, I have a massive advantage. Because if they're going to sue me, they're either going to have to know what they're doing by themselves, which they don't, or they're going to have to be correct, in which case they get a lawyer on spec, which they aren't, or they're going to have to pay a retainer to engage a lawyer who then engages me, in which case I am celebrating. Because my first question, out of many, 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 many questions I can have for this lawyer, is okay, I'd like to meet the demand letter, but I'm trying to figure out exactly what it is being demanded. Obviously, I can't meet the demand letter if you don't explain what it is demanded. So you say here, meow. Does that include meow, 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 meow? Oh, by the way, I have a quick question. Are you the kind of lawyer who likes to rack up billable hours, or the kind of lawyer who likes to win? Because if the former, today is your lucky day, sir. That's how I begin the conversation with their lawyer. No, I don't have a lawyer. So my hours are free. No, not in this case. The plaintiff must have tons of money. I don't have a lawyer. I'm not going to get a lawyer. I don't need a lawyer. The idea of threatening Eric with this kind of public contest is kind of funny. Right. Public contest, any contest where the light of day is shining, I have nothing to fear at all. Yeah, fuck yeah, bong time. I have to probably, god damn it, I need to go to bed by like midnight, okay? I barely slept at all last night. Maybe like an hour tops. The thing is, it wouldn't even be representing myself. This is a thing people don't understand in the legal process. It begins with an exchange of documents. The first thing that happens is a demand letter. As soon as the first document is launched, that's when the fun begins. Okay, because they send me a document, I must meet this demand by now. However, if I send back another document saying, I intend to meet the demand, but you need to clarify what you want the demand to be, what do I have to do to meet your demand, and give genuine reasons why things certainly are clear and need clarification, then they have to send back another document. Now, I can be incredibly troubled by tiny ambiguities in legal documents. So, of course, once again, I'm not going to be exactly clear on what the demand is. So I'm going to have to send back a bunch more questions, ideally on the phone with the lawyer. And I ask questions so slowly. Gosh, I mean, let's see if we can get that lawyer a full 8 hour workday. Getting on the clock, not even, you know, fattening up his bills at all. Just actually spending like, wow, this guy's got me working hard. I'd like to see him put him 72, 80 hours a week for 3 or 4 weeks before I officially say, you know what, I'm actually not going to meet that demand. Now that you've articulated so clearly for me what it is. So go ahead, but please do launch your suit. And here's my countersuit that will initiate as soon as your suit gets filed at court. Because at that point, since I've already established that you failed to meet your prima facie case, that means this is frivolous lawsuit and being done as a vindictive or punitive measure by basically it's exploiting the legal system to get your personal vengeance, which the legal system very much frowns on, and which is definitely grounds for countersuit, which I would win, of course, because I actually have concrete evidence. Well, it depends. If it were about Becky, I would win it because I have concrete evidence of her telling lies and defaming, blah, 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 blah. And I would point out, look, I don't know how to sue her, but if she sues me, then I might as well go ahead and countersue her just to get extra laughs of the double win, And this is exactly this is the whole point of it, though. It's the great thing about Becky's approach, Tori's approach, and stuff is it's finally, and Mercury retrograde has resolved these things for me. It's like there was a big unresolved issue that didn't really bother me that much, but was kind of lingering, which is Becky had successfully muddied the story originally. It had generally become a matter of public perception. It was sort of a he said, she said thing. Eric and Becky don't like each other, which was annoying to me because, of course, that's not the truth. That was not the story. That's not what happened. It's not Eric and Becky got into a spat. It's Becky meowed, Eric called her out, and Becky revealed her lack of character from Eric's perspective by refusing to be held to account. And, of course, that pisses Eric off. So when he's not being able to talk to the person he wants to talk to in a reasonable way, then he starts bending on the internet, and so whatever. I started bending on the internet. She did a good job of PR managing the whole thing, right? And I figured, well, I kind of knew I wasn't winning that argument at all. I wasn't winning the perception battle. I wasn't winning hearts and minds, So I just figured, well, I'll gradually see the backfire having the pulpit, and they don't, But unfortunately, she also did a really good job of sustaining a pool of poison around her, and such that it was still kind of a stalemate. But thank God for Mercury in retrograde, which seems to compel people to bring up their old shit and relive their old ways, maybe. So for me, it was very mild because it's not terribly huge unresolved shit for me. It's just frustrating because it's not fair the way it turned out that she won the argument fair and square, so to speak. Like she did a better job of sweeping than me. And that doesn't happen very often. So kudos to her for that. But not through any planned intentionality of mine. My Mercury in retrograde, I guess, made me make one little snarky joke about Becky during that video. And she cleaned up the water. All the mud's gone. Clear as day now. So I appreciate the realities of the universe that are such that karma's a bitch, It's like it gets theirs eventually in some sense. It cleans up. It clears up, If you really are righteous and you keep saying no because I'm right and I'm not lying, well, if you're right and then stay forward to the truth because the universe provides. Joel, listen, relax, dog, relax. Who are you talking about? Who do you got to warn that you're saying? Tell me that you're here out of respect. I don't. You know, kind of throwing any disclaimers when you show up. I'm not. I'm almost never going to be mad at you from earlier if that's what you think. You got to fucking do something really bad for me to be mad at you from earlier. I do not entertain irritations about shit that happened in a live stream from earlier. I never would have crossed my mind that, like, oh, am I supposed to be mad? Or like, I would be mad at you or whatever. Yeah, chill. It's cool. It's all good, dog. I don't care. I'm not mad at you for anything. I'm totally not mad at you because you do say like me kind of things sometimes, but you also say like things that I just go, what? Which don't seem attacky. They just seem kind of confusing. And then you say some things that make perfect sense. And so, you know, I don't have any sort of holistic view of you exactly. You're just sort of as you are in any given exchange. Yeah. Fredo didn't get away with it, did he? Well, he kind of did. He kind of got away with it. But he was excommunicated from the family, right? You know, or another example of that is look what happened to Thanos. He thought he was so cool by making everybody turn into little black specks of dust until he was turned into little black specks of dust. And he didn't think it was so cool anymore, did he? No. He was like, oh, but I want to kill half of everything. There was some movie I saw an ad for recently that I wanted to see. It looked really interesting. I can't remember what it was at the moment. You're a very vengeful justice, Countess. Is kind of TI-ish in a way. I like it. Bye, Eileen. Nice seeing you. I like your name. It's kind of a relaxing name, actually. Although it kind of makes me think of, what's that guy's name? Who played Rain Man? I can picture him, but I can't think of his name. Thank you. I think of Walker, I think of as, I have an association with autism because there was a autistic boy and there was mainstreamed in our school in middle school who was referred to as Walker because of how he walked, I guess. He wasn't really teased as Walker, he was just referred to as Walker. It was like nobody bothered teasing him because he was so autistic. It was like he avoided any kind of teasing because he was like so full blown off that people just sort of but I'm not sure if anybody really knew what his name was even. They just referred to him as Walker. And so I think of autistic person when I think of Walker. I think of autistic person when I think of Rain because of Dustin Hoffman. The relaxing part kind of produces an odd juxtaposition. I don't really have any association with that, except I think of like waterfall or something, I guess. It's weird to think of like what associations you have with certain words, you know? Is Stephen Brooks here? Is that really Stephen Brooks? Is he here? Is that Brooks from NorCal? Are you that Stephen Brooks? Oh, you the debate coach? Cool. Thank you for being here. I appreciate that. You know, I feel a great deal of satisfaction when somebody that I didn't meet through the YouTube channels on the YouTube channel. It very rarely happens, really. It shows you how much what a huge disadvantage in life geography is. Geography afforded me access to a shit ton of people who didn't find anything I did interesting. You know, it's like you're tripping. Put your arms out like this so you don't land on your face when you fall. You're still coaching, huh? Are you going? Did you go to Berkeley? I was actually at Berkeley. Oh, yeah, I told you something's changed. This is so fucking like the slabs are going crazy right now because a couple of weeks ago, I got a strike on the channel for hate speech, which was they identified something that was satire of, which was like satirizing that kind of thinking as an example of that kind of thinking because they're idiots. I don't know, their algorithm is or whatever. So anyway, I got a strike for hate speech. After I already gotten a warning for bullying, for bullying C.S. Joseph. So, oh, I see. So you got the position that delegates the unpleasant work. How nice. Pro debate coaches? Who are pro debate coaches? Did I say that? What was I referring to? I don't remember. You learned finally? Yeah. you realize that doing a super good job was diminishing returns. Has diminishing returns, kind of, you know. I like doing a super good job on. I kind of got a similar sort of setup right now. I told my clients that they have to do all the, like, you know, when they want to register for a tournament, we register when I'm on the clock there, and they stand over my shoulder and say, okay, now do this, because I don't want to have to do shit at home. I don't want any homework ever. Period. No homework for me. I don't mind the tournaments on the weekends as long as I don't have too many to go to. I really enjoy them when I see people I know, and you know, kind of been out of loop for a while. My kid's doing pretty well. I only got one debater, but he got second at Marlboro, which is a good local tournament, and got first at a league tournament this year. So I'm hopeful that I wanted him to go to States, which is up north this year. Are your kids going to States? But his parents wanted to go to TOC instead. And they're probably right about that, so I didn't give him any pushback. Really, because TOC is doing the nuclear weapons topic. I don't even fucking want to prep predictive policing. You know? It's like, why? One tournament of predictive policing is like a middle school at freaking Brewski? Fuck it. Why even prep the topic? So, it'd be a Pleasant Hill State, maybe Fresno. Oh, there's 2 states, huh? There's 2 competing states this year. Yeah, I'm gonna go to TSC, middle school TSC in Kentucky. But I gotta say, this is the best debate gig I've ever had. I have one client, both his parents play for the LA Philharmonic, and they are smart. So it's like they had a few different attempts to get him debate coaching before me, and that's nice because it's nice when I have multiple things to contrast against. I know I'm going to contrast against whatever I contrast against extremely well, but it's nice to have multiple things to contrast against so the clients really understand how valuable you are, you know? Yeah, it is kind of like that. Right. I wish I had NBA players' kids. They'd pay me even more, I'm sure. But um, it's not like I make a shit ton of money from these people. I just like them. I like them, and uh, they're kids that need to be like me. So that's also especially gratifying. Being able to tell the censor parents, you need to stop expecting your kid to have TE. Okay, you don't make him put his folder together. You do it for him. You know, because I feel for him. He's so much more focused than I have ever been in my life already because he's got these tiger Chinese parents who are always forcing him to do all this extra shit. And, you know, and they're super high achieving, obviously. So, but I love them also because they call me about like everything for asking me for advice. Like, oh, they suspended Jeffrey today, which they did. They said he was teasing this girl, but he was one of a group of. I'm like, okay, well, do you want to fight it or not? Basically, I'm their their legal counsel for dealing with their expensive prep schools administration. So, and they asked me for advice about like, well, he should take medicine and stuff for his ADHD. They finally got him declared ADHD so they can give him speed if they want it. Anyway, yeah, they're great people. I like them a lot. I really feel like they appreciate my actual skills, you know, rather than just winning. Like when we don't do well, they make an actual critique about whether or not we deserve to lose those rounds or not. You know, sometimes you get shitty ass judges, and you know it's like, what the fuck? He didn't lose any of those rounds. It was that's the principle for demand letter. But I told him is okay. Look, since the principal has rendered his decision final and basically said, "Well, sorry, too bad, we're spending it for that," then you say, "Okay, then we are officially demanding 1 day's refund of tuition because we don't agree with this decision and we call bullshit on it. So you either need to give us an appeals process through which we can articulate a case more clearly and have a different authority adjudicate that, in which case we might accept the result if we could perhaps decide on arbitration terms ahead of time or something, or give us the money back, or rescind the suspension." And then, of course, he'll rescind the suspension. He'll try to frame it as, okay, I'm going to do you guys a favor this time and don't let him. This is what shit I tell him, you know? Sorry, Ambo. Sorry, everybody. Sorry, Stephen Brooks, for talking your ear off. I'm in a really like person appreciating place right now. I really appreciate all my friends here on the live chat. And it's nice to be able to have a real world person come in. I like want you guys to meet. I want you to meet them, and I want them to meet you and stuff. And I don't know, you know, third slot FE and yeah, whatever. Past your bedtime, anyways. Right, you need to go to bed, Stephen Brooks. You got a long day tomorrow. You got a lemon vinegar enema at 8:30. Got a prostate exam at 9. You got 6 hours of anal from 10 to 4. And after that, you've got to have dinner. So get a good night's sleep. See you, attorneys. Thanks for being here. Don't forget to eat plenty of cheese. Oh my gosh! You guys can't get Kristen Summergill. She's my favorite 4-named person with at least 2 Ks and a G. What do debate coaches eat for breakfast? Opponents. I generally don't eat breakfast. What do opponents eat for breakfast? Coffee, bagel. Depends what the hotel free breakfast has. Maddie Sanchez, you're going to go good night now too? Okay, go ahead. Good night. Sleep well. Don't worry, we still got Hambone for at least 4 more minutes. Countess is still here. Winslow, I have thought about it on multiple occasions, and I, in fact, well, in the live stream, well, you were probably there in the live stream when I was explaining my concerns about the movie. I want to know what quality it is of that one chick that makes her stupefy everybody, but other equally hot chicks, equally scantily clad chicks, have no stupefaction effect. I want to know. No, I haven't actually. It's been a busy day in the sense that. Okay, well, this is what I mean by busy day. Lil Abner is in my package of unrolling narratives. So it's like, okay, if I see him, I'll tell him. It's like what typically happens in my progression of days, so to speak, is there are sort of naturally occurring chapters, right? And for stretches of time, there appears to be nothing happening in the story, basically. And so during those stretches of time, I'm capping and recapping and recapping and recapping the existing storylines and getting them increasingly NI. Less of like herding a bunch of cats of messy storylines to more like, okay, these are the central themes here and things are trying to make sense. This links to this, links to this, links to this, this. Okay. So when nothing's really going on, my general sense of my sort of life story, ontology, where I'm going, where I've been, all that kind of stuff becomes clearer. But it also becomes sort of restless and eventually becomes sort of stale because at a certain point I recap all that enough. And I think, okay, well, what's going to happen next? I mean, the story needs to move forward now. I'm waiting for things to happen and I'm just sort of going through the motions and I've got all those stories recapped enough times. I don't need to recap them anymore. And Archangelus, no, I never think that any of your fake identities are you because I am not trying to figure out who people are. I'm operating under the assumption they are who they say they are. Now, and guess what, Archangelus? You made me lose my train of thought, Missy. Made me lose my train of thought. And quite a big thing to lose. It had a lot of boxcars attached to it. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, thanks, Jake. Appreciate it. So then what happens is what happened the last few days, which is a bunch of shit all happens at once, right? Starting like last week. Not just for me, it turns out for my dad too. Now, I tend to not really take a lot of his narrative seriously because it's anti-polar, so it's like the narrative now, and he doesn't have a good sense of extrapolating out vectors and narratives or something. So, anywho, with all that shit happening, well, things that happen like first the stock market goes tumbling down, a bunch of shit. So my dad's starting to get fretful about that. Right, we went up 1,200 points today, but whatever. Then, what's happening is I'm starting to fully wake up again that week, because I've been out of Adderall for such a long time that I was past sleepy week and I was just starting to get like myself restless again, right? Enough so that I started getting peppy in my live streams. It's like, yeah, I'm starting to make fun videos again, even though I'm not in the Adderall. I'm feeling kind of enthusiastic. In one of those videos, I triggered Becky, not on purpose, although I guess I didn't. I sort of had some sense that she might not like at least one thing I said in there. It certainly wasn't intentionally to trigger her, and it never occurred to me that she'd be quite that easily triggerable, I guess, you know. But you know, as soon as I made that, and Becky called me when I was at the storage place, from that moment forward, all of a sudden, all my like bored tidying up the narratives that had already been cleaned and tidied up and organized already became a jumbled mess of new shit, right? So when I have a jumbled mess of new shit now, I don't really have afforded to me the time to, well, nothing's really happening, so let me organize these narratives. Shit's still happening, so more shit's piling up. So when that occurs, of course, that's one vector that's going to drive me to 10-hour long live stream because I've got a shit ton of stuff to talk about. Like since the beginning of this live stream, or for quite a while now, I've been trying to explain this central point that I'm making, which is that on the one hand, how much I have to say has something to do with how much is happening. And also, how much I have to say has something to do with my chemistry, whether I'm on Adderall or there's been a long time or blah, 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 right? So regardless, now I'm in a stage where I've gone from the dry season and scraping around for a few lost clams at the, you know, a few last little floppy fish at the bottom of the mud puddle. Now the rains have come and there's a huge abundance of food, right? But I've already sort of, you know, and then I began to make the shift from lean times packing to, okay, start breaking it, okay, you got, you know, and that's where I am right now. I'm still trying to process all these narratives. One of the big things, what it means to process them is realizing what they mean ultimately. So, for example, I've realized that what this means for me, ultimately, the whole Becky incident is that it resolves the Becky matter for me. I have no idea what it does for Becky, but it resolves it for me because it makes me realize, oh, it was unresolved and it was bugging me because it didn't end the way I thought it ought to have ended. And I was just sort of, she's got to sit there and take it up the ass, whatever. But see, that's the thing. Everybody in life just has to learn to occasionally just say, I guess I got to take it up the ass, whatever. And you sit there and go, You done yet? You've got to have a certain amount of trust, of course. So, I mean, I don't know. Here's the big thing. On the one hand, if you're going to be critiquing other people's behavior, it's a good idea to see what mitigates their blame for it. Like, I don't want to condemn them, to condemn them to hell or anything like that. And if there are mitigating factors that reduce their culpability, then I would like to treat them accordingly. The problem is, if you're looking for those kind of mitigating factors, it's difficult to get into a lot of angles of them without running afoul of pathologizing them, which I don't want to do. So I don't want to say, okay, well, here's what's wrong with you. That's why you're doing that. And here's how I can help you by fixing what's wrong with you. I don't want to do that. The thing is, I don't think I have any either interest, ability, chance, competency to, or anything of the sort, even begin to fix Tori. It's not just because she's so broken or something. I'm not trying to say that. I'm saying I banged my head against that wall already for 2.5 years with my ex-girlfriend, Kimberly, who was very, very similar to Tori in some ways. certainly the incredibly volatile headbutting, active, willful uncooperativeness is a shared quality. And, of course, nobody has any obligation to cooperate. I'm not trying to say that they have to cooperate. It's just that to meaningfully make one's way through the world, one has to be able to engage in some sort of structured power exchange. You can structure it by FI. I'll do power exchange with you because I trust that you love me so much that when I give you power, you're going to use it to serve me. That's an FI kind of power exchange. You can do it on a TI level. Well, let's spin this so you're mostly right on this one, and we'll spin it so I'm mostly right on this other one. And that way it'll be fair. Well, what's the truth? It doesn't matter because the important thing is we're each affording each other the status of equal correctness and taking accountability equally. So we're both being team players. We can just replace what it is we're taking accountability for with X and Y. It doesn't matter. It's the act of taking accountability, showing the trust to offer the other party power in anticipation that there will be a reciprocal exchange of power. That's what makes a healthy exchange between people. And when exchanges between people are fundamentally unhealthy, it is because of some breakdown in that trust process that's developed in a healthy, not a healthy person that expresses when healthy human relations are expressing. The best way to put it. Eileen, are you Tiffany? You know Tiffany has that same problem, right? You know who Tiffany is, don't you? From Mindy's Club. So, and you can really understand the difference between TI and FI in the power exchange thing. TI doesn't care if it gets what it wants as long as it gets something of equivalent value so it knows you're being fair. FI doesn't care if what it gets is of equivalent value as long as it gets what it wants. So in some sense, FI is willing to take unfairness. I only got a hamburger out of this deal, and you got to decide all of this stuff over here. Well, that's fine, FI, because FI doesn't care about anything but eating the hamburger or whatever it is they like. That'd be an SI thing, but you know what I mean. FI is like, I want to go have this selfie with these wings painted on the wall at this place because I've seen it for that specific one. I want that one, not anyplace else. But that one's like super hard to get to and far away. Doesn't matter. That's the only thing I want. Can't I find you an equivalent over here? That's not the same. Then you got to do everything you want. Everything you want to do. I want to do what? I want exactly what I want. Like that. That's FI. And TI goes, I actually don't really want what I want. I just want to make sure you behave as though you care what I want as much as I care what you want. Even though I don't really care what you want or what I want, I just want us both to act like we care what we each other wants or something. Third slide FE is obviously a fairly limited understanding of FE in the sense that it's very selfish. It's a very selfishly framed FE. So when I explain FE, I probably explain it too much from a third slot angle. Like I probably give it less credit for nuance than I ought to. Thanks, Ken, Christian, Summer Pagoo. I love it when I say things that are so true. You know why? Because that makes me feel good. Like a pirate with a treasure chest of booty and a parrot on his shoulder, a plank, skull and bones, and every other NI accoutrement that means pirate. I would say the first slide is selfish. I wouldn't call it immature. It's interesting because third slot can be very, very powerful and effective in its modality. But it's only using, it's only playing offense. It's not, Now, this is a bad analogy because when you think offense defense, you'd say, well, I'm trying to do shit with my FE or I'm trying to defend against shit with my FE. I don't mean it like that. I'm saying it's only playing half of the game. And the half of the game is playing is, I'm here to impress you and be liked by you and make you laugh and have the stream end and go to bed thinking, like, if they were still there hanging out without me, I bet they'd be saying nice things about me. Note what I'm not ever really thinking about. Well, I wonder how it feels for you to always have to be on the audience end and never on the entertaining end. But even that's a third slot FE kind of angle. I finally understood after quite a long time that no, you're not being fair when you make sure that they get their chance to be the center of attention, because a lot of people don't really want to be the center of attention. It seems so. It's like a TE user agreement, but you can't possibly explain anything without having a utilitarian framework. I mean, what's its purpose and how effective is it? That's the only thing that matters. I'm kind of like that with FE a little bit, in the sense that I go, I just sort of like, well, of course, everybody wants to be up here on stage and the center of attention. And I gotta admit, I can be a little unfair and stuff to my FE. I always want to be up here on stage in the center of attention. And I know all you guys must be clamoring to get up here. Probably not. If you're clamoring to get up here, you're probably trying to do that on your own stage someplace else. And you're probably not here. And there might be some who are clamoring to get up here, but most of you are probably clamoring to find your own wherever. You don't like to be up on stage. You like to stand on the side of the stage right next to the drummer, if you could, stand wherever you want to, because that's where you hear best. Well, then I don't need to get you in the center of the stage. I need to facilitate you doing that if that's what you want to do. In the past, I have many, many times, it took me a long time to learn this, made the mistake of trying to sort of push an introvert onto being the center of attention, thinking I was being nice and helping them because everybody wants that. And then go, and I really don't want that. Oh, sorry. Eventually I learned, you can't just assume everybody wants to be the center of attention. Just because you really want to be the center of attention doesn't mean everybody must want it a lot, then at least. No, it doesn't work like that. Okay, break time. Hard at work today. I am hard at work. I gotta tell you, you guys are slave drivers. Like, since I've been here, Hamba made me dig a hole. Then Angantyr made me fill that hole back in. Winston's mom had me picking oranges for about 6 hours. Eileen said, first carry me inside, so I gotta go to bed. Then carry me back out here because I have decided to change my mind. I'm coming back here. And it's like, well, can't you just walk? She's like, no, I'm incredibly lazy. Fine. It's been a busy, busy day. I'm an intern. I know. I'm an intern, Hambone. I get a goddamn cent for this. And you know what? It's even worse, Hambone. You're an intern's intern. You don't get a goddamn cent either. And what's even worse, even after I'm promoted, you'll still only be promoted to intern. Still another step to go. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to share this bad news with you. And, I wish I hadn't made it your Christmas card, but I did. It's a struggle when you have a lot of FE and you don't know how to get the center of attention and you aren't satisfied with the amount that you get, and then that's why I'm right here. Yeah. Ryan Harrison, are you an interview or what? What are you? It is look. What Ryan Harrison says there, I realized was the central truth for me only after I successfully got some attention by a YouTube channel. Then I realized just how incredibly thirsty I had been, So, unfortunately, if you're an INFJ, it is much more of a struggle for you because you don't like the way you You don't like the way that taking the stage defines a record of you that changes in its meaning over time, usually growing worse in its meaning with distance and time. While your understanding of what the truth is has evolved. So it gets increasingly out of sync with NI, what you've done before. And you get increasingly deft in understanding every tiny, slight mistake you might have made in some level. So even if you were to get busy and meow and start being center stage and stuff, in about 3 weeks, you'd take a big break and then delete all your videos. Then you'd come back about a month later and go, okay, listen, I've been gone for a couple months, but I'm back and I'm ready to make videos again. What happened to those videos you had up here before? I really like that video. I wanted to go rewatch it and see something I said in the chat and it's gone. Oh, yeah. We're not going to really talk about it. Anyway, my new videos are, you don't want to say new. So my videos are this. Try to just sort of, it's always been this way. Maybe it has always been this way. Like that's the INFJ approach to video making. So the answer to your question is, you can play with me if you want. You can make some videos with me. Make them for your channel if you want. Make them for my channel. I don't give a fuck. That might give you some momentum. I don't think my ENTP advice for you is the best advice for you because you're not an ENTP. My ENTP advice is just start throwing up random shit and don't worry about if it's any good at all, or anybody watches it or care at all. You're just indulging yourself. Say as much fucking bullshit as you want. Get used to doing that for a while. Just sort of handle that shit, right? But you want me to take your wrench away? You don't want me to take your wrench away. You'll miss it once it's gone. It's kind of like the ring of power. You get really attached to it until one day you're standing in a little mud hut and Gandalf's there and you really don't want to give him back the ring. You get really sharp teeth all of a sudden. That's what it's like when you have the wrench. No thanks. I don't want to take that back. Do you actually want me? Can't you unmoderate yourself, or no? Can you cast down your own wrench, or once I give it to you, have I welded it to your hand and only I can remove it? That's interesting. Countess, you should not have a wrench. No, you should not. Well, why should you not? Because you have a tendency to be a bit of a loose cannon. That's fine. I like loose cannons. I'm a bit of a loose cannon myself sometimes. And I think loose cannons also deserve a tool. It's called the Zippo. You should have a little green Zippo next to you. You're a loose cannon. You can use your Zippo to light things on fire, for example. That'd be great. If you could give some people the power to light other people's comments on fire, knowing that once you've lit somebody's chat on fire, the fire could spread to chats you didn't intend to catch on fire, or it might die out. And there should be some mechanism by which you can put the fire out. Meanwhile, your moderators, they can put that person on timeout, but they can't put the fire out. Now, the people who have, then we should have people who have a hose, and they can put the fire out, but they can't put fires out, fires started by moderators. I think we can make use of a lot more fun with a bunch of arbitrary interlacing powers and limitations that make being a moderator an ongoing war to do nothing. Is that true? You can't take away your own moderator wrench? Do you actually want me to take it away? Well, I was wrong there. Winston's mom. Right now, you're talking about an Apache helicopter. But right now, I'm thinking about Apache Chief, who came up in an earlier live stream and is a superhero who grows super big. How does he grow super big? Does he have a magic word? Does he eat some special Indian herbs? Does he just hold his nose and go, or what? I want to know. Cornflakes, syrup, and cheese. Joel, Nick, and Henry, I think you might just be onto something there. Do the cornflakes have milk on them? Or is the syrup replacing the milk? Also, what kind of cheese? Now, I would suggest that if you're talking about cornflakes, syrup, and cheese, your best cheese for that would be contingent on whether or not the syrup replaces the milk or supplements the milk. No milk replaces the milk. Okay, good. Did I answer your question? Or is your question what's 2 plus 2? Then no, I didn't. But the answer would be 4 if I had answered it. Look who's back, baby. Who? Oh, it's you, Hambone. I didn't recognize you. Was at your ranch. Hambone has had it with this live stream because Hose Eric is oblivious that Countess is talking to herself like it's normal. Countess, I'm not oblivious you're talking to yourself. I hear every word. I've been talking back to you, to myself. Haven't you been listening? I've been talking to you inside of my head. Oh, sorry, Nicolay Shea. Now, not really a very good time to do it. Try me again tomorrow. I'm going to go to bed pretty soon. No, Countess, you can't have a wrench. I already explained to you, you get to have the Zippo lighter when they implement that part of the YouTube channel thing. I want to know the way Apache Chief grows so big today. Does he use a magic word or magic Indian stuff? Does he use a magic bird to lift him up and up? Maybe I should Google it. That would be a good solution to my problem. I'm going to Google it real quick because I think it's pretty important to know how this guy works in case we need to use him during a supervillain attack. Apache Chief superhero. Apache Chief was a Native American superhero and a member of the Super Friends. He had the ability to grow 50 feet tall or larger by saying Inikchok, which he explained as the Apache word for big man. I wonder what the mechanism of that superpower is. Like, how does the Inikchok activate his cells to expand? Like, for example, does he retain the same number of cells, but each of the cells grows proportionally larger? Or does he generate ever more cells and sort of create a new body, so to speak, with more cells? Has it been explained by anybody before? I want to know. Apache Chief, how do you grow? Does his clothes grow too? Do his clothes grow? I think his clothes grow. What makes his clothes grow? That's what. Does he have special growing clothes? Or are they just regular clothes and they grow because obviously if his body's going to grow, his clothes are going to grow too? Apache Chief, what kind of superhero loses his power to a cup of hot coffee to the crotch? Is that how you stopped Apache Chief by spilling coffee on his junk? Apache Chief, hot coffee. I want to. What is this referencing? I want to know. Let me look at all instead of images. In the show Harvey Birdman, which I guess is like a Adult Swim show, Apache chief. It's revealed that when an Apache chief spills hot coffee on his lap, it prevents them from growing larger. That's funny. Is Apache Chief in Wonder Woman? The Chief in Wonder Woman is a demigod. Did anyone else, while watching the Wonder Woman movie, get an Apache Chief Super Friends vibe? Or is it Wendy or what? Turns out it's not far from the truth, as the actor that plays the Chief of the film, Eugene Braverock, confirms his character is a demigod. And yes, Nappy is a demigod. What powers does that one have? I don't know. What happened to Apache Chief? Oh, that's not the right kind of Apache Chief. Here. Let's see it on YouTube. Enoch Cock. That's what he says. Okay, I have a question. If you were 50 feet tall and proportionally the same as you are now, if I were 50 feet tall and proportionally the same as I am now, would I be able to lift the roof off of a building? Because that's what Apache Chief can do, apparently. He goes 50 feet tall, and there's this octagonal building with a big pointy thing coming out the top of it, right? He's able to lift. What? Just timed him out. Relax. He'll be back once his time is up. He'll be free to return and say, yo, what the fuck? Well, I guess that's what I asked for when I said, take my wrench, oh, ham bone, in sorrow laments. Poor ham bone. He's not banned, Countess. He's just timed out. Hambone, Joel Nathan Henry is going to let you handcuff him to Horse Mumbler. I can tell you want to get in on that? You can Hambone, you can get handcuffed to him too if you want. Okay, so thank you, Jake Hurwitz, for answering the pressing question of does that make sense? If you were 50 feet tall, would you be able to lift a roof off of a building? It still seems like I mean, like the way he lifts the roof off, it looks like the roof they just sort of set it down there and didn't even like nail it down or anything. It's just like like this. It's just like sitting there, right? So, there. But normally, I bet they nail the roof to that other part, the top thing, top of the walls, But maybe Apache Chief just got lucky and ended up lifting the roof off a building. They just happened to have contractors who either ran out of nails or just said, you know what? We take a more natural approach. We don't like to use nails and pierce the wood and hammer it in and stuff. We just let nature do its thing. Listen, this is the only way you can have an organic gluten-free roof. You want an organic gluten-free roof, don't you? Well, no nails. Nails have gluten in them. That's why. Yeah, we're getting a house built, but I told the contractors no nails. They said, well, I'm not sure how we're going to build the house. I said, listen, figure out a way. Nails have gluten. Use screws or something. I don't know. Just glue the wood together or just push it together really hard. It'll probably stay. Now, what time is it? 12:23. Okay. I need to call it a night. And I need to actually go to bed when I stop this stream. I'm feeling kind of pumped up. I'm going to get up, I'm going to smoke a cigarette. I'm going to try to relax myself. Right here, I need to sleep tonight. I need to get at least like 6 hours of sleep. Otherwise, I'm just going to start going nutty. I want to maintain this sort of middle ground that I've attained here, sort of, which is the past 4 or 5 days, I've taken a lot less Adderall than I would normally take in the first 4 or 5 days. I don't seem to want to get all super throcked. I want to maintain that. And that means I need to get a good night's sleep so that I can come back with the pimpy pumps not exceeding the bimpy bumps. You know what I'm saying. Anyway, thank you very much, everybody, for being here. I really do appreciate you all. I value a great deal. These couple of days of like intense live streaming, I feel have brought us all closer. I really do. I think like I'm really getting like, oh, this is what this thing is. But of course, also has something to do with the, as I said before, circumstances and the other factors, regardless. Good night. And don't forget to walk home. If you do, it's okay though. I totally give you a pass.